41, Dion versus Everson. All parties, please step forward.
Caitlin Dion claims her former employer, Scott Everson, breached their contract to buy her baby shoe business.
All right, what looks to be a complicated case actually is merely just a contract case. Ms. Dion, you had a side business of making baby shoes, and I assume that those are the baby shoes.
Yes, it was a full-time business.
The defendants had a children's clothing website, and they became familiar with your baby shoes, and they were interested in buying your business. You entered into a contract wherein I believe that they agreed to pay you $30,000 for the business. Is that correct?
That was the asking price. There was never a written contract signed.
That's incorrect.
Just a second. You entered into a deal for $30,000 and an employment contract without a written contract?
I have the written contract here, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah. I would say goodbye to you all if there wasn't a written contract.
There was a draft of a contract, the terms of which changed numerous times over the 2 years.
You can't change a written contract. Was it a written contract that was signed by both parties?
No, it was never
signed. He refused to sign it, even though he was the one that wrote it himself and emailed it.
Former employer, Scott Everson, breached their contract to buy her baby shoe business.
Well, then there was never a meeting of the minds. May I see that? This is going to be a much easier case than I thought.
That's also incorrect. I have audio.
Just a second. This is going to be a much easier case than I thought.
That's the latest draft of an agreement of which there were several drafts prior to that.
Listen to me, sir. It doesn't make any difference to me. She's suing you because you paid her pursuant, I assume, under this non-contract, according to you, $31,000. That was both for a piece of her business and for her staying on for a period of, 4 months, 6 months?
That was never agreed to.
Neither was the $30,000. Do you understand? You can't have it both ways,
It's a
Ms. Dion.
complicated case.
It's not complicated. It's very simple. You didn't have a written contract. If you had an oral contract, that's one thing.
I do have that, actually. I have audio that we can play right now telling him that he promises to pay me $30,000 regardless of how long I worked for him.
Just a second. The original deal that you had was for $30,000.
There was actually an original deal that was much more than the contract he took months to change to sign.
There's no question that under the terms of what you both thought was reasonable, you agreed to accept $30,000 from him for the business, and you would stay with the business for a period of time, either 4 months or 6 months. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but that is totally reasonable because he wasn't in the baby shoes business. According to your complaint, you were going through some marital difficulty, you were going through other major problems, and you called him within the period that you were supposed to be working for him and said, "This is too much for me, I can't do it." I read your complaint. Do you understand? That's a breach of your contract, if there ever was a contract. That was, listen to me carefully.
If you look in the contract, it says that he would take away $400 per week that I did not work for him.
This is not, listen to me, Ms. Dion, listen to me very carefully. This is an unsigned contract.
Why did you send it to me then?
Just a second. He gave you $31,000.
He did not. He gave me $5,000.
Just a second. He says he gave you over the period of time $30,000. Did you give her?
I have proof.
Just a second.
In the period of time that we've known Ms. Dion and worked with her, I've given her $31,668.
I have proof that says otherwise.
I'd like to see it.
Here are my hourly paychecks.
Not.
Those are paycheck stubs, of which of the $31,000 she received,
that were not part of the business purchase price.
Listen.
No, you're right. That was pay stubs.
I have to explain something to you. There was no written contract and clearly no meeting of the minds based upon what you both told me today.
What was I supposed to do? I signed the contract and gave it back to him.
Then you should have done nothing. If he didn't sign it, you should have done nothing.
I was a single mother at the time.
Ms. Dion, you have to understand, this is a court.
He had all of my assets.
This is a court. It's not Dr. Phil. You had no written contract, and if you had no written contract, you had to have an oral contract.
I do.
No, then you had to have an oral contract, and that oral contract clearly did not reflect a meeting of the minds of both of you. If he didn't sign this contract, and whether it was for your business or for your employment, are you saying to me that you did not receive from him? I'm just curious, because he has the documentation to show me that you did not receive from him $31,000.
I have documentation. Sorry, I thought that was a question you asked.
That was a question that you did not receive from him. I don't care if it was the business or as a worker, that you did not receive from him during a period of time $31,000.
I did not. That's incorrect. I have my paychecks. I have the down payment that he made. I have the installments that he made.
Just a second.
All of which
He gave
added up
me-
to $31,000.
Just a second. Add them up, and I asked you a question. How much was it? Your paychecks and the down payment he made on your business. How much was it? I want to know if it was he said it was $31,000.
He paid me $16,666 for my business. My paychecks do not matter. They were not a part of the business agreement.
Did you file your case in small claims?
That is not a part of my business.
Did you file your case in small claims court?
Yes.
Just
Working
a second.
hourly was not a part of
Dion,
the contract.
Pay careful attention to me. If you filed your case in small claims court, I'm going to give you an opportunity to go back there. If you think you have a case, I do not. I do not believe that there was a meeting of the minds when there's a contract unsigned for over $10,000. That's absolutely ludicrous. As long as I'm comfortable with the fact that you got paid during a period of time, $30,000, so that you worked and you got paid. The contract for the sale of the business, as far as I'm concerned, was never consummated. I'm going to let you go try to explain your position to a judge in either Superior Court, because I don't think small claims courts hear cases up to $10,000. I don't know where you're from. Where are you from?
It's actually $11,000.
Utah.
In Utah.
Well, go back to Utah. This case is dismissed without prejudice. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I reminded him over the period of 2 months.
Paid her $31,000 for her time in her business.
Give me the contract, give me the contract, give me the contract.
She wanted a job. That's how she first approached us. She applied for a job with us.
My working for him hourly was never part of the agreement.
I wish I had been more careful.
I'll see him back.
Boyfriend Willie Albrecht for filing a false police report and harassment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2068, Automatis versus Albrecht.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Albrecht, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You are the current live-in boyfriend of the plaintiff's ex-wife?
Soon to be.
Of the plaintiff's wife.
Correct.
Mr. Adamus' complaint is that as a result of you making a call to the police, he was defamed when you said that he was trespassing. It was a false call to the police, and he wants to be compensated to the tune of $2,500. That's what the case is about. So in order to make this whole thing in context that I understand, how long have you been living with Mrs. Adamus?
Since June of 21.
How long do you know her?
Since January of 21.
Have you ever been married?
Yes, I have.
When and for how long?
Previously to April of this year, I was married for 15 years.
So you were married when you moved in with Mrs. Adamus?
Yeah.
Legally?
Legally.
Did you own your own home?
I did.
With your then wife?
Correct.
Did she stay in the house?
She did.
Does she have a boyfriend?
Yes, she does.
Do you like him?
No, I do not.
Does he live in the house?
Not at this time.
Did he ever?
Yes, he did.
And you didn't like it?
No, I did not.
So I want you to understand that there is maybe a reason why the plaintiff resents you living in a house that he owns with his still wife, and you're living there. Do you understand?
I do.
Because you sort of have the same situation. You're kindred spirits. Actually, you're kindred spirits.
Except my 15-year-old son also lives with this young man.
So who cares?
Oh.
Well, that's all right. But you understand why he might be annoyed.
I do, but...
Okay. So now, understanding all that, I want you to tell me, because I'm not totally sympathetic with you, sir, because if you and your wife are divorcing, you're entitled to move on with your life, and so is she entitled to move on with your life. Where do you live? You live in an apartment?
I live in a condominium.
Okay. How long have you lived in the condo?
I've lived when we separated March of 2021.
And who do you live with?
I currently live with my...
No. Who do you live with is the question.
My older son.
And how old is he?
19.
And how many bedrooms are in the condo?
2.
And what about you? Have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
Ever stay over?
My house? No.
Do you ever stay at her house?
No.
Does she live with her children?
Yes.
And is she divorced?
Yes.
And she stayed in the house?
Yes.
You see how all these things go? It's just, just as the world turns. It's just what happens. I've been there. Understand it all. Can either make it hard or difficult. Who pays the mortgage on the house?
Paid off.
Okay. So you have one teenage child, your wife has the other.
Yes.
And how close is the judgment to divorce to being finalized?
Not close.
Not close. Is that for financial reasons or custody reasons?
Financial.
Had to do with the house?
Yes.
Okay. How much is the house? I'm just fleshing this out.
Speculating.
Only because I'm a little bit of a yenta. Behind this purple robe is a little bit of a
You know, with the housing market, being a CPA, you know, it's hard to say, you have to do, but I would say somewhere.
Why don't you give Sarah the address of the house and we'll tell you what this estimate is.
California.
While she's looking that up, tell me when you and your wife purchased it.
2006, August of 2006.
And during the course of the marriage, were you employed all the time?
100%.
And what about your wife?
100%.
So you were both employed and both contributed to the house. Fair statement?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The estimate is $552,000.
And just for my own curiosity, what's the rub about the house?
The rub
Come on, it's simple.
The rub about the house is she's now went in and spent an ungodly amount of money on fixer-upper after I moved out and went into a massive amount of debt. The house was fully paid off, and she's now in massive debt. She's put in fixer-upper.
No, don't look at her.
Okay, that's
look
what
at me.
Okay.
So she's fixed up the house after you moved out.
Correct.
And?
It's not a problem.
Just a second. So what's the problem?
There is no problem with the house. Meaning that you know we're still debating who's actually going to end up with the house. We haven't decided.
Well, you know, whoever wants to be in the house buys the other one out.
Exactly.
For $260,000.
Correct.
Okay? It would seem to me that would be easy.
I think so.
Okay. Now that I've satisfied the yenta in me, I'm getting back to the case. All right. You called the police. This incident, according to what I read, Mr. Adamus, happened on November 5th.
Correct.
You went to the house to pick up your son.
Correct.
Okay. Was that a meeting that had been arranged before?
I have visitation every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks when?
Every other weekend.
Well, so was this a weekend?
Yes, that was one where I was going to go pick him up.
Okay. Had you spoken to him?
Yes.
And so he was expecting you to come at a certain time?
Absolutely.
What time?
Approximately there, we'd arranged about 7:15, that 7:15, 7:30 that night.
Okay. And you had visitation fixed by the court, and you had been enjoying that with your son for a period of time?
Correct.
Okay. What happened when you got there at 7:15?
Well, on that particular visit, my wife had taken his key to the house, and I had...
No. I told you, don't look at her.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, okay.
I'm getting sympathetic with her. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
7:15, you went to pick up your son, and you were annoyed because your wife had taken your son's key away from him.
Correct.
And you thought your son should have his key because he was 15.
Yes.
And?
So at that particular time, I
don't look down.
Okay, look at me. I went into the house. I'd never been in that house since I moved out, and so I wanted.
How did you get into the house?
The door was open.
Okay, the door isn't wide open. You mean it was unlocked?
Unlocked.
Okay, so let's not say the door was open.
Okay,
the door was unlocked.
Correct.
Door was unlocked. You don't live there anymore. You live in a condo.
Correct.
Okay, did you ring the bell?
No.
Knock at the door?
Yes.
Nobody there's a bell.
Answered.
There's a bell.
There was a bell.
There's a bell.
Yes.
Didn't ring the bell. Open the door. Now, open the door.
Yes.
Your house, I own half of it. I'm going to ask my wife a question.
Yes.
Keep going.
Walked into the house. At that particular time, she is sitting there with my son. At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument. She didn't want me to have a copy of the key. And I tried to explain to her, without a copy of the key, he can't get in the house. If I drop him off at odd hours, then you don't have to be home. So then she got upset. At that point, then I never met Mr. Albrecht before this time. He comes storming down the stairs. Mr. Albrecht is then, I think Mr. Albrecht's coming to beat me up. He is storming down the stairs. I've since learned that Mr. Albrecht...
Just stop.
Okay.
Just pay careful attention to me. So far, you're in the wrong.
Okay.
Let me just tell you.
Okay.
So far, from a legal perspective,
right,
and a common sense perspective,
okay,
you're in the wrong. I'll explain why in a second.
So I walk into that house.
We got past that.
Okay.
We got past that. So now you want a copy of the key, and she says no. I don't care if you want to give it to your parakeet.
Okay.
You're not entitled to a copy of the key.
Okay.
Let's start right there.
Okay.
And let's start with my first point is if you're going there to pick up your son for a prearranged visit,
yes,
you don't walk into the house. You have a 15-year-old son. A 15-year-old son has a phone.
I tried to call him, yes.
Oh, you tried to call him. What happened?
He said he was there, that he said...
Be very careful what you say to me.
Okay, he
you
was
called
there.
your son.
And I called my son, be ready to go. He said, okay, I'm ready to go.
That was at about 7 o'clock.
Yes, approximately.
What do you mean, yes, approximately?
Yeah, I was probably on my way to pick him up. And so when I come up there, I call him on the phone.
Okay, he's ready to go.
Yes, are you ready to go?
Okay, so you walked in.
Okay.
You had no right to enter the house.
Did not know that.
Well, you had no right to enter the house. You knew that your wife changed the locks.
I did not know at that time she had changed the lock because the door was open. I had not been
No. Listen to me. You went there because... Mr. Adonis, you have to be a two-process thinker, sir, before you give me a lot of baloney.
Wrongfully called the police while visiting his own house.
Okay, if you needed a copy of the key to a house that you partially own,
yes,
you would have had a key to the house.
Correct.
You didn't need a copy to make because you would have had one.
Okay.
So you knew that your old key didn't open the house. Otherwise, you would have said, your mother took away your key. I'll make you another key from my copy.
True.
True. Of course it's true. So, so he called the police and he said you were trespassing.
No, he didn't say that at all.
What did he say?
He said he told me I was trespassing. Then he called on the phone. And when he's on the phone with the police department, he is telling them that I am now committing domestic violence. Now, that is a very serious charge. I mean, okay, we can debate about my access to the house, but when you call the police and say that I'm committing domestic violence, which is a crime in the state of California, that's a game changer. So
I want to ask you a question, Mr. Adonis. When you walked into the house, and you saw your wife and your son, I want to know, when you walked in, uninvited,
true,
your first words were, I want a copy of the key. That's what you said. You said, I want a copy of the key. Would you read that back to me, please, Whitney?
I'll go with that.
At that particular time, I asked her to get a copy of the key, and we became into an argument.
So now you're in an argument, and you're a trespasser. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Okay.
This court is adjourned.
Very, very shocking.
She's absolutely correct, as she usually is.
I had no idea this was going to blow up into World War III.
Because he's all about winning. He didn't get his way. He was throwing a temper tantrum.
I feel that he's just trying to do whatever he can to keep me out of the picture.
He lives by his own rules.
He just simply wants me out of the way so he could take over.
Let the courts decide.
It's always so unfortunate when people divorce. I mean, the story is this. I could have written the script without even listening to the people. But they have two teenage boys, 15, 19 years old. One's chosen to live with the father. One's chosen to live with the mother. Clearly, the son said to him, Mom took away my key. Mm-hmm. She clearly took away his key for a reason. Mm-hmm. I didn't even want to get into what the reason was, but clearly she took away the key for a reason. Otherwise, she doesn't look like an unreasonable person. Her boyfriend doesn't look like an unreasonable guy. And he was flexing his muscles. Mm-hmm. And the fight is over the house because I gather that's the only real asset they have. Yeah. Anyway, unfortunate when people don't realize that they have to love their children.
Lucinda Noble is suing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Ms. Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting.
Correct.
For how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
It was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children?
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021 to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time, and there was other times I paid her different amounts. But our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well,
so our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something is right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent. And you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally. Yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before then. I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So I apologize. Okay. Apologize. Sorry. On April 24th. So if you want, and then you can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them? Mm-hmm. How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something, I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job, and got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? Mm-hmm. And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for 3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month. Mm-hmm. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay. And your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
how far she owes you for rent?
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer, she took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putty them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's...
Okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit.
Okay.
Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident report.
Yes, you called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26 April.
The police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me. But first, I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who's here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the older sister from these 2. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda?
Yes.
On April 26th?
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was...
The daughter is the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
okay, not the 2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay. And your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second. Was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to. Supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous. And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that.
Well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this justified?
She made the comment that
so she called
Tiffany
you.
has not been there.
Okay, you had to ask her
My
why.
words to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well.
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay. Now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week, there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their work.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble?
It was many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
Okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. I've had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me. He told me immediately.
So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All three.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my tests.
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay. That's what this report says. You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do you
away.
have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, call Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me, that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history. Didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history. Okay. So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My property?
We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and It was like an oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS. Current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's basis itself, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no, they're watching. Yeah. They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those kids, that they're not getting all the loving and nurturing that they should.
Hopefully, maybe after today.
Isaac Uno is suing his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, for unpaid rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, Uno versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Uno, you purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent?
Yes.
And for property damage?
That's correct.
They are no longer there?
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property? Did no painting?
Oh, just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. Uno did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020?
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there?
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. How do you know? By the way, do you have medical records of the child that you claim has lead poisoning?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. Yes, you. I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand.
For the blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
When you, just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for a year and a half before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that year and a half.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for a year and a half even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub fixed, the flooring and everything, he told us to take back.
How many people were living in the duplex?
In our apartment?
In your apartment?
4.
4. Mm-hmm. Including the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the baby. And how old's the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No. This is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes. I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just.
This doesn't say.
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah, I'm not sure about it.
I'm not sure.
I don't
But,
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Uno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Uno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was. It was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting...
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a...
Okay.
Yes, to
so you had
$1,000.
no lease anymore, and he wanted to raise the rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Isaac Uno claims his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Ann V. and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
And in what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say...
Do you remember, Mr. Uno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st. Maybe.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were, at that time, looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time, a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was, why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house, even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wished to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We...
So if you didn't find a place
we decided
in December...
we were trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume they paid rent in September.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
In October?
Yes.
Yes.
They paid rent in October.
Yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November.
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021.
Yes.
No, you cannot.
Okay.
If I need you,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
come to you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay.
Because so far he's doing fine. You stopped paying rent in December of 2021. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over.
Okay.
He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them, I think. I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes, the same thing before he took over. Everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty. They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment because he lived downstairs from us. Talked to him about it. He came upstairs and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent. And then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and, and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay, not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. You can use it as a huge deal if you want your tenants out because, you can re-rent that duplex for substantially more money.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us.
Okay, so let's say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? You said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Did your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a month do you receive, Ms. Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent.
Right.
And if you didn't pay $1,000, so I hear you. Well, that's what he said he wanted. And he's the landlord. And he's allowed to do that if you're going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the premise was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house. Well, it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Claims his tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say minimally $750.
$37.50.
$37.50. Now, Mr. The only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went and I missed it and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, Miss Kelly and Mr. Jackson, you owe Mr. $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay while you occupied his premises. You, your furniture, your children, I don't care what it is. That's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were constructively evicted.
Yes, he...
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until...
Just a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before, I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
but,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far. If you didn't pay rent for November. You didn't pay the prior landlord and you didn't pay him. So far you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
To go back to the November, so during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No,
just you, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay, and the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got the toy out.
So the toilet was broken by your son. Okay, so now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual, and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up until the next year, and it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I had to collect monetary judgment to the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Oh, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people who were having trouble during COVID, work-related trouble, didn't have the same income, and didn't want to have a whole bunch of dispossessed homeless people. It came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants, who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting the landlord. These people were simply taking advantage of a legal loophole that was created for them. He was in the restaurant business, which, as we know, was one of the toughest hit by COVID. Right. She was on a fixed income that wouldn't be enough to cover, barely enough to cover the rent on its own. And then they have to support themselves, feed themselves. They have 2 children. So I'm sympathetic towards the taking advantage of a legal loophole. So I don't know, if I was in your position, I might have decided differently.
Okay.
But that's okay.
All
I
right.
can agree to disagree.
That's sometimes happens.
Kiana Hill is suing her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, for vandalizing her car and harassment while working together.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2141, Hill versus Horton.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Hill.
Yes, sir.
What's this man's name?
Claudius Brown.
You have a child with him.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's 10 years old?
Yes.
Is that your only child?
No, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 children.
Is he the oldest?
She is the oldest.
She's the oldest?
Yes.
Does she see her father?
No.
Hasn't seen him in how long?
Months to a year.
The defendant has 2 children with him.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
Well, he'll be 2 on the 9th, and then I have a 10-month-old.
And then, according to what I've read here in either the complaint or the answer, he has at least 1 other child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is how old?
Probably about
7. Does he see that child?
Every blue moon when she brings them.
So once in a while?
Yeah.
So he has 4 children altogether?
Yes, ma'am.
And you currently live with him?
Yes.
What does he do for a living?
He works at a warehouse.
And you?
But I'm a certified nurse assistant.
Who takes care of the kids?
Me and Claudius.
You work different shifts?
Yes, he works overnight. I work day shift.
So you're currently working?
Yes, ma'am.
But there came a time, I'm just trying to figure out why everybody's sort of mad and fighting over him. I don't understand it. There must be something that you ladies see that is hidden from me, because it is your claim, Miss Hill, that Miss Horton not only vandalized your car, but that she caused you to be fired from your job. She says that you filed a false restraining order against her and that actually you caused her to lose her job, and it's all over the prize, which I can never really understand. How long have you been working in your current job?
About 3 months now.
So you got another job?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you like it?
Yes.
Making about the same money or more?
A little less.
And where are you working?
I'm a machine operator.
So you got another job?
Yes.
Because all this started when all of a sudden you found yourselves working at the same place?
Yes.
And in what month was that?
That was, I started the job May 31st, but it spilled over into June is when everything took place.
And how long were you working at the same place?
3 months. I started March 4th of 2022.
Okay, so it was a short-term employment for both of you. And you were there first?
Yes, ma'am.
And you came shortly thereafter, shortly after she started to work. Had you ever met each other?
No.
Well, explain to me what the problem was.
So there's a history that started back in 2019 via text messages and Facebook. So we've had an ongoing beef for years.
Who cares? Now you're going to both get smarter. You're going to come here today and you're going to both get smarter. And if he has 2 children that he doesn't see, her daughter and your 7-year-old, according to what I hear that you see once every blue moon, that's a basket that I wouldn't be in. So you have a history of bad texting back and forth and stuff. I don't care about that. Let's get to the 2 allegations of, 1, that she vandalized your tires. When and what proof do you have that she vandalized your tires? This is after you both found yourself in the same working environment.
It wasn't my tires. She actually keyed my vehicle.
Keyed it?
Yes.
On what date?
On June 18th. And I have my police report from that.
Okay, I'll look at the police report. Did you see her key your car?
I did not see her, but I requested video footage from the job, and they stated that they would give me the video footage.
Do we have it?
We don't have it, but the city attorney was unable to receive it as well. But I have a letter from the city attorney.
You don't have it here for me, and you didn't see her key your car?
Yes.
What we're here for is a trial, so I need what proof you have that she keyed your car. I assume your car was at work?
Yes.
When it was keyed? Okay, and I'm assuming that you don't like each other, that things got nasty, heated on social media, back and forth. I'm assuming all that is true. All I need for you to show me is proof that she keyed your car.
Well, I have audio recording from HR where they're stating that everything was initiated by the defendant. And Arkansas is a one-party state, so I can play the audio for you.
Oh, was she on the audio?
They're talking about the video in the recording and that they were supposed to give it to me.
Can't help you. Okay, this next part of your case is that she caused you to lose your job.
Yes.
Go.
So I have my termination letter stating that they're defended.
I'd like to see a termination letter.
It's a joke.
This is the description of the termination letter and description of the violation. Kiana has been involved in altercations with another employee. While the other employee instigated the situations, it has gotten to a point where multiple other staff are now involved. I don't know what that means. At this point, it is affecting patient care and causing a hostile work environment. Termination effective immediately. I assume that you have a similar letter because you were terminated. May I see it?
Yes. I also have a final warning.
Just a second. Okay. On Wednesday, June 15th, 2022, Diamond, that's you.
Yes, ma'am.
Was given a final written notice concerning harassment of other employees. It has since been reported that the harassment has continued. Also, multiple other staff have been pulled into this situation to the point that it's affecting patient care, and it's a termination letter. Okay. So I'm assuming since you got this, you were notified previously about having any communication with each other. You were not.
I was out for COVID. I had just got back to work June 15th of 2022. And I found out that Hill was working there. I never knew she was working there at all. And so I got called to the office.
Hill claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
My question was a relatively simple one, because I'm going to make this as simple as possible before I probably dismiss both of them. I would like to see, after June 15th, 2022, up until the date of the termination, which is June 23rd, 2022, how the harassment continued. I would like you to show me from June 15th.
The actual date was June 14th.
Well, this says June 15th.
I wasn't working.
Shh. This violation.
To my friends as well. We have the date timestamp.
I just want you to show me after June 15th, between June 15th and June 23rd,
yes, ma'am,
what further acts that you allege are acts of harassment occurred.
I have the schedule showing the date.
Shh. Well, I don't know what this is.
A fake Facebook page that she made.
How do you know this is a fake Facebook page that she made?
That was a requested message that was sent to me after her and myself had a conversation, and she was threatening to beat me up. And it says, since you didn't apologize, D is going to beat you up.
Okay.
The D that they're referring to is Diamond.
Oh, my God.
What is this?
The 870 number is her calling my phone.
Okay. And 870.
The missed calls.
This was on what date?
That was on June 19th.
What were you calling her for at 6 o'clock in the evening?
Well, the day she accused me of vandalizing her car is the day that we had worked together. She called the police and her family came up there and they all had guns. That's the reason she got terminated, because she brought a gun on the premises. And they came up there to jump me.
That's a lie.
When I went outside.
I just want to ask you why you called her.
I called her to ask her because the June 16th is when I sat down. I had a conversation together to drop all beef. Like, no issue.
I don't want you. You want to say you can't control yourself. Understand, you're sending me a bad message. If you can't control yourself here, which is a very controlled setting, I'm going to say to myself, this is somebody who can't control themselves outside of the setting. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I called her to ask her why did she feel like I vandalized her vehicle, because before that we sat down and we had a conversation together at work saying it should be dead. Like, well, we should not have any beef, over him at all, and that the kids were involved. And so we agreed to let it go. So then she accused me of vandalizing her vehicle.
What was the beef about? I don't understand.
The other baby mama is the reason why we're into it.
The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes.
Yeah. The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we have no proof of vandalizing, and this is nonsense. You want to tell me about the restraining order that you filed?
There was an order of protection placed after she was harassing me at work.
May I see it?
Yes. But it was also rescinded.
By the way, does he pay child support for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
He does. How much?
He pays probably about $239 every 2 weeks, somewhere around
Does he pay it to you?
Yes. Well, it's through child support.
But he pays it to you?
Yes.
And he's current?
Yes. Well, there's back pay, but he's currently paying.
Okay. So was there a hearing on this order of protection?
It was not.
There was
No,
not.
ma'am, there was not a hearing.
Just a second. Did you appear?
No, I rescinded it.
I understand that. I just want to know the court found that the petition was dismissed.
It was a false accusation.
Okay. So the reason that the order states it was dismissed is that the petitioner doesn't meet the definition of family or household member as defined in whatever statute is, and therefore does not allege the existence of domestic abuse. Doesn't address the gravamen of the petition. It's a more procedural dismissal because she's not related to you in any way. I mean, having children with a person in common doesn't make you, at least in this jurisdiction, part of the household. Okay, you both look like nice ladies. You know, he has kids with 2 other people. Not a great track record.
He really don't see them because they don't let them. They don't want their kids around me.
There's a reason. You know, maybe not a great track record. It's not good for your children. It's really not good for your children. I mean, your children, believe it or not, your children are related to each other. I mean, you may not have any interest whatsoever, but when your children get older, they may have a curiosity about who their half-sibling is, what they look like, they alike. They may have interest. So all I can suggest to you is your children didn't ask to be born. The idea that you exert any energy whatsoever, negative energy with regard to each other, is ridiculous. Really ridiculous. But for him, you wouldn't have any contact with each other. Am I reading that right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, why? He hasn't been in your life in years. And I know that he shouldn't have been in your life at least for the last 7 years because he's got a 7-year-old with somebody else, right? And you have a 10-year-old. Goodbye, except for your daughter. And
could I state that the situation is not about him. It's about the harassment, the lost wages. That's more of my concern with her. It has nothing to do with
I was working before you. I was working at a job. You came to my job.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is, right now, and I don't have to get into it any further, right now, she's got the guy.
I don't care.
Just a second. Right now, she's got the guy. So that would perhaps give rise to some animus on your part. With regard to her position, he's working and he's paying money to your child, which is, in her mind, taking money away from her 2 children that she has with him. Well, that's his responsibility. You knew about that child and you knew about the 7-year-old. So what I'm telling you is there's a lot of negative energy going on. You both got jobs relatively soon after this. It was probably not a good idea for you to stay in the same place. And your employer was absolutely right and actually quite brave in today's times to say, we're terminating both of you because your job is affecting patient care. Because it's not only the 2 of you, other employees have been drawn into this drama.
That's because she brought them in.
I don't know whether she brought them in or not, and I don't care whether she brought them in.
And later Till claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
Now, of all the places that you have to work, you had to work in a place where she was working.
I didn't know she worked there.
And she didn't know that you were there.
She did on the first day that I started, and she told everyone who I was and what the situation was.
I was out for COVID.
Okay, who cares? Anyway, cases are dismissed. Goodbye, good luck.
This court is adjourned.
I feel like the judge, she made the right decision.
She didn't listen.
Because I'm with her baby's father, which is now my baby's father.
He had nothing to do with this situation.
I just want to be there for my kid.
You know, to his credit, he's paying support.
Sure. Has a job.
Has a job. And I don't know why these 2 women feud when, according to plaintiffs, she has no interest in him anymore.
And she's getting support.
She's getting support. I just don't understand. There are so many things that life has that present obstacles. Why fight over a guy?
There's many good causes you could get behind and fight for. Let's choose one of those.
Right.
Case 2153, Fawless versus Mixenbach. All parties, please step forward.
Elizabeth Fawless is suing her former friend, Christy Mazenbach, for 2 kayaks and an assault.
Miss Fawless, it is your claim you and the defendant were friends, been friends for a while.
Yes.
Your allegations are twofold. First, you say that the defendant assaulted you after a party.
Yes.
You weren't injured as a result of that assault. You didn't seek medical attention, but you said you had some scratches and that she hit you.
Yes.
Okay.
Claims her former friend, Christy Mazenbach, owes for 2 kayaks and an assault.
There was no medical treatment. There was some drinking that went on that night.
Yes.
But the thrust of your complaint is that you gave the defendant 2 kayaks that you had purchased.
Correct.
Because the defendant has a piece of property and you didn't have a place to store them, and you asked if you could store them at the defendant's home.
Correct.
She said yes. You're no longer friends after this kerfuffle that took place after a party, and you would like the 2 kayaks back.
Correct.
When did you purchase them?
I bought them on April 29, 2020.
From whom?
This lady and her mother were selling them on Facebook Marketplace. They were moving out of state, and her mom couldn't take them with her. So I have the messages of those 2, but I bought them on Facebook.
And how much did you pay?
$320 or $350, sorry.
For both of them or each?
For both of them.
And when did you begin storing them at the defendant's?
I brought them over the next day after I bought them because I live in an upstairs apartment. I had nowhere to keep them. So she has a house that she lives in, so it was a better situation for them.
Where are you living now?
I still live in an upstairs apartment.
Where are you going to put the kayaks?
I was planning on storage or maybe find a family member who has a home to take them to. But to basically probably buy a storage.
That's pretty expensive to keep them in storage. If you paid $350 for the 2 of them 2 years ago. Have you used them in 2 years?
I bought them this year, this April 2022.
Oh, 2022.
Sorry, yeah, 22.
Okay. Have you used them?
Yeah, I use them often with my daughter. She's 5 and autistic.
Have you used them with the defendant?
No.
Have you used the kayaks?
Personally, I have not yet. I haven't had the chance to.
Just to say, you have not?
I have not yet, no.
Okay, you acknowledge the fact that the plaintiff, who was then your friend, brought them over for you to store. You're not friends anymore. She wants them back. Why not?
So I would like to kind of go back to the beginning where like the assault happens, just so that you can kind of understand.
I'll get to this.
Okay.
The assault is not the important part of this case.
Okay. So the kayaks, originally, it was a deal that if I was to keep them at my house, that we could both use them. When she wanted them back, I just didn't necessarily feel like that was fair because the original agreement was that they were kind of almost both ours. I just didn't have the opportunity to use them yet.
Okay. All right. Well, now you're not friends anymore. Now she wants them back. So she's going to pick up the kayaks within 5 days. If you don't pick them up within 5 days, you're out of luck. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay, good. So within 5 days from today's date, we'll prepare an order. You can pick up the kayaks. Now, you want to proceed with the assault part of your case?
Yes.
Okay. Show me pictures of what the injuries were that you sustained.
I don't have any photos. I had a different phone at the time. And
just a second, so you don't have any photos. Do you have any medical reports?
I don't.
Okay. This alleged assault happened on what date?
It was August 17th, 2022.
Were you both out that night, or were you having a party in a house?
So what happened was her girlfriend had cheated on her and they broke up, and she invited me and a couple other friends to the home where we were there. My daughter was also there, where we were hanging out, we were talking, trying to have a good time because she was having such a bad time. And I ended up falling asleep at some point. I went to go sleep with my daughter in the room. Everybody had left maybe around 12 a.m. And she came into the room wanting to talk, wanting someone to be there with her. But I was asleep. I'm not a very happy person to be woken up to. So I told her no, like we'll talk in the morning. She wasn't okay with that. She started getting mad, so she started getting upset, and my daughter was next to me, so I was like, well, then I'm gonna leave. And so I tried to walk out. She grabbed me, she threw me to the ground. She's stronger than me, so she was on top of me. I was just scratching, hitting, pulling, trying to just get away. My daughter was screaming and crying. She's autistic, so she doesn't really understand what was going on, but she was highly upset. She was screaming no. And I was eventually able to like get up and try to leave. She followed me to the garage. I just tried to push and try to just get away from her, but I don't think she really remembers everything, and it just happened so fast. But I was finally able to leave and get out the home with my daughter safely.
Okay, good. Okay, bad behavior. Bad behavior.
I agree.
Bad behavior? Okay. I wish I had a photograph. Okay, within 5 days, pick up your kayaks. Are we done here?
Can I explain my end or no?
What?
Can I explain my end or no?
You did explain your end. You said you didn't think it was fair when she wanted her kayaks back because we were going to use them together. But now you're not going to use them together because you don't like each other anymore. So you're not going to use them together, so she's going to get them back.
Alrighty.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
There was a lot more to the story than happened, but unfortunately, I guess the best outcome would be just to go ahead and give her back her kayak. So
it shouldn't have gone to this point. I should have got him back after the incident. For adults, it should have went way smoother.
There was a lot more insult that happened, like on both ends. It wasn't necessarily the whole full truth.
I think she's just going through a lot with whatever she's going on with her ex, and just I feel like it just got taken out on me.
Because we were like sisters before, and things just kind of, go south, and unfortunately, we lost our friendship over that. So
we've been friends since middle school, so I don't know what the future holds, but I hope maybe one day we can talk and we can work things out.
Only time will tell.
I think probably the only thing that bothered me in that case was what the 5-year-old was doing out at midnight at a party where people, at a gathering where people were getting...
A breakup party,
a breakup party. Easy case.
Yeah.
Easy.
She paid for him. She gets
them back. Yeah.
For 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Menzel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster?
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building?
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from that space, which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay, give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes.
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events.
Yes, ma'am.
Social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
okay,
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. And
that's what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that. When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met living at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's?
That's the studio that she runs.
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second. Okay. You prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, etc.
That is.
Now that happened, according to you, because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your 2 partners that the...
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said, okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you?
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was part of the event.
Is that correct, that it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people. It makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event. So
I see your point now that you put it that way. I just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion and perspective.
Jason Gabriel is suing his former friend, Lawrence Sr., for money he gave Lawrence to run a boys' basketball team.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2167, Gabriel versus Senior.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gabriel, it's always exciting for me when I find a case that I can't relate to based upon my own personal experience. And this has to do with sports.
Yes.
And those people who know me know that I'm really a non-functioning American when it comes to sports. I understand baseball, but nothing else. However, I have a little bit of experience with people. So you have a son, that would be you. Could you stand up for a moment? Who's tall, now you can sit down, and who likes to play basketball.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he's been playing basketball for a long time. Well, most sports stopped at the start of the pandemic. And he was playing for a team.
Yes, Your Honor.
I know that I'm going to get fuzzy on this eventually. So far, I'm holding up okay. So he was playing for the team. The team closed down, as did most other things. And the pandemic is sort of winding down, and sports are coming back. And you wanted your son to play basketball because this is your senior year in high school?
No, I'm a freshman in college, Your Honor.
Last year, so this happened last year?
Yes, I was a senior.
So this happened last year when he was a senior in high school, and you wanted him to play because he enjoyed it and because you thought somebody would find him? A scout?
Mostly the enjoyment, but there's always a chance for the scout.
Okay. And, you know, you're his father, and fathers always think that their sons are uber talented and maybe can be one of those quiet self-starters who turns out to be the hero on the basketball court. I have a grandson who plays baseball, and he plays baseball pretty well. Plays in college. His father follows him around from one game to another like it was a full-time job.
I can relate to that. It is.
Well, your son wanted to play. There was no team. The defendant was a basketball coach who you knew.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose team was also the teams that he coached were also defunct because of COVID. So far, correct, Mr. Senior?
Yes, ma'am.
So at some point you approached him and said, I'd love to start up this team again because I would like my son to play ball. He wants to play ball, and nobody else is doing it that I know of. What would it take to restart a team that could be part of a league or play other teams? You know.
Yeah, you're right.
You know.
Yeah.
Is that close?
Yeah. You're close. You're close. Yes.
Close enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. So you talked about an amount, and Mr. Senior said, I can start the team up for $8,500.
Yes, ma'am.
You, who wanted desperately for your son to play ball his senior year, said, I'm going to give you the money. You gave him $8,500. So far, correct?
$8,200. It's $8,500, Your Honor. I have the check right here if you'd like it.
Okay. If you have the check, cash it. So it's $8,500. The team only played one game or one tournament?
No, it was actually four tournaments in total for that season that we played.
And how many are you supposed to play?
We had planned on 6 in total. One would be out of state or far away.
No. How many games were supposed to be played by your son's team being coached by the defendant?
So a tournament could have 3 games. And that takes over the course of a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday.
So
a tournament could be 3 games.
A tournament is 3 games.
Could be 4 as well if you're successful.
Okay, so you were supposed to have 4 tournaments?
We were supposed to have 6 tournaments, and we did have 4.
Okay, so you played most of the games?
Yes.
And then the team was disbanded?
Yes.
For whatever reason, may or may not be relevant. So how much money do you want back? You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
Well, math is my second non-strong suit.
Yep.
But if you paid him $85 and you played 2/3 or 3/4 of the games that you were supposed to play, why do you think you would be entitled to $4,800 back?
Because I also fronted the money for the uniforms.
Well, that was spent.
And the graphics.
Well, that was
in
spent.
addition to the $8,500.
I understand that, but that was all spent. The uniforms, the players got. Right? And they kept them?
The players kept some, and the defendant has the rest of them.
Okay. Do you want them back?
I do not.
Well, he'll give them to you back if you want them, because he's not using them.
How do I know that? This is his team, his organization. It's a non-for-profit company.
Okay, let's deal with it slowly. We're dealing with the math first. Do you have, Mr. Senior, do you have any of the uniforms?
No, ma'am. I never collected the uniforms.
Did you
sole
have?
Possession.
What?
Well, he had sole possession of the uniforms.
So you don't have any uniforms?
No, he's the one that handed them out.
Okay. Did any of the players give them back to you?
No, none of them gave.
So you don't have any uniforms? He doesn't have any uniforms?
Okay. But, Your Honor, it didn't cost $85 to run the team, that's my...
Just a second. Now, what we're talking about, sir, your $8,500 went to have 6 tournaments. You had 4 tournaments, right?
Yes.
Whether or not you get your money back is a whole other thing. But the uniforms were purchased. That you don't get back. The advertising graphics were done. That you don't get back.
But
whether it's for 4 or a 6.
That was his team's name on it.
Doesn't matter. What difference does it make?
Jason Gabriel claims his former friend, Lawrence Sr., owes him money after they started a boys' basketball team.
Now, can you tell me why the tournaments were cut short, sir?
There was a number of reasons, Your Honor. One of them was right from the start, both me and my other son tried to discourage Mr. Giamni about forming a team of that age group.
Okay. I don't want to get back into that, sir. You took his money. You played 4 out of the 6 tournaments. How much were you paid to coach out of this $8,500?
I wasn't paid anything.
Did you?
It's more of an administrative cost.
What administrative costs?
Scheduling tournaments, gyms, gas, transporting kids that didn't have rides. More than half the team was not supported by their family. At least one kid was homeless.
Was there an accounting that you asked for, sir?
Yes, that was my initial response to Coach Larry. Was yes, he told me $8,500 to start the team.
No, I'm asking you an accounting at the end of the day.
I asked him where the money went. Like, could he account for $8,500 in addition to $1,600 that other kids paid to play? That's how I was going to get my money back. It wasn't just, I'm going to give you the money and you go do with it what you want. He told me it was $8,500 to start the team, and I would get my money back.
Oh, from what source?
The kids pay to join the team.
Okay. How many people were on the team?
We had as many as 14, maybe 16 come through.
To tryouts. They didn't play. I'm sorry. How you doing, Your Honor?
How am I doing? I've been better. You're his son?
Yeah, I actually run the program with him. Yes.
Okay, good. So how many young men were playing basketball?
On the team that you're talking about that's in question, I believe there was as many as 10 to 12 that actually came. The numbers vary because we're talking about 18-year-old children that come and go as they please. They don't really want to be that.
18-year-olds are maybe children to their parents. They're not 18-year-old children.
When it comes to this, then the responsibility part, yeah. I don't know. I'm old, I guess. They're children to me still. Sorry.
What I want to know is, did you have a contract with him, a written contract?
I did not.
You just said, here's your $8,500 and I'll get my money back when the kids sign up and pay their dues. How much do they pay each to join the team?
Coach Larry set that number at $600 per player.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we tell you where that number comes from? Over the years, because we've been doing this for over 20 years, the average cost to run a team for a full season, we averaged it out to be about $600 per kid. because on a 10 to 12 man roster, 10 being the least you should have.
How does he make money?
We don't make money, I'm sorry. We don't make any money.
So you don't make any money, you just do this for the love of the sport.
He grew up in a basketball family. He's played basketball all his life. I've been in a sports family. My brother has, and we just love sports.
So this is not a money-making operation.
Not at all. We probably put in more money than we made or put out in the program. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, I coach high school football. Actually, his son goes to the school I coach. So I was aware of him, and I also coach baseball. So I just don't, you're not going to make any money coaching youth sports if that's what everybody's saying.
Well, I'm just asking you.
No, I know that.
I'm just asking you, because there is a suggestion here that some of that money was to pay you as coach. And I just want to know whether that is in fact correct, whether any of this $8,500 went to you.
Not directly, no. Talking about gas.
Indirectly to pay for gas and pick up
maybe a
that.
car repair. I only had one car at the time. Okay. So
Mr.
me and
Gabriel,
my wife were retired.
Mr. Gabriel, can you tell me if you have, since you have no written contract,
Yes.
you have no written contract requiring anything. You were supposed to start up a basketball team, which he did. I assume you played, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you played in 4 out of 6 tournaments. Stand up next to your dad. Did you play successfully?
I only played 3 out of the 4 tournaments.
That's reasonable.
But we were
Is
successful.
that normal? That members, I don't even know how many people are on the basketball court at a time.
5 at a time.
5 at a
What?
5 at each team at a time, so
5
10 total. Yes.
Well, if you had 10 to 12 kids, you what? What are you laughing at? I don't know.
I tried to expose it to you before this case. I tried to put it on TV. I played the Lakers.
So if I
I
could
played
back
the
up to
Clippers.
2019, we met Coach Leary in 2019. I didn't just pick him out of the blue now.
I didn't suggest that you picked him out of the
So
blue.
my son
Mr.
played
Gabriel.
for him in the past.
Mr. Gabriel, you don't look like the man that would give some stranger $8,500 to start up a team, not knowing him.
Correct.
Okay, I accept that. I just don't understand that are you a business person?
I am.
What kind of business are you in?
I'm a contractor.
Well, if you're a contractor,
Yes.
that I know. You have contracts.
Absolutely.
You're a contractor has contracts. And the contract that you do, you build homes or you build...
I remodel homes, yes.
Okay. So the contracts that you do lay out with specificity what you're going to do, what the materials cost are, what the VIG is on it, within a certain amount of play. But it lays out everything that you're going to do. You're turning over $8,500 to the defendant, and there is nothing in there that suggests that with any specificity what he has to do to comply. He had to start a team, which he did, right? Had to start a team, which he did, where your son played.
Yes.
Which he did. There were supposedly 6 tournaments, out of which 4 were successfully played, and your son played in 3 of them, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you should have been happy. Somebody got a chance to see him. Did anybody give you a basketball scholarship?
I do play Division III basketball in Brooklyn.
Good for you. There you go. Did somebody find you at one of these games?
No.
How were you recruited?
I did multiple showcases, and I won in Connecticut in particular.
He's a good player, Your Honor.
He's a good player.
And so I was found through showcases that I did by my own.
Okay. But you played. And that was good practice. It was good.
Yes.
I don't know why it was disbanded after 4 tournaments. Do you? Do you?
Yes. There was multiple players who did not want to play anymore because they were verbally abused by the coach, and they just were fed up. And then there was other players that were let play for free, and people just thought that was unfair.
What do you mean with not play for free? Explain that to me.
That they were just let on the team without paying.
Oh, so some people were disturbed that some people paid to play and some didn't.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have anything that requires that they pay in a contract?
That would be Coach Larry that he does, and he passed out those to the kids.
No, I'm asking you for your... He didn't put in $8,500, you did.
Jason Gabriel is accusing his former friend, Lawrence Sr., of owing him money after their boys' basketball team ended.
Go ahead, sir.
I put the money to the team. He runs the team. I can't tell him how to run his team.
No, would you have a contract, sir, that tells you what your $8,500 was to be used for, and the expectation that you were going to get that money returned to you via fees that were paid to each individual player. That has to be it. And in the event that they don't pay, who's going to pay?
Well, I do have a text message from the defendant saying, I did not use all the money. It did not cost $8,500,
Okay,
and I will pay you back.
That's what I would like to see, because it was disbanded for whatever reason. All your reasons, sir, are hearsay. What is your first name?
Gianni.
Gianni, the reasons are hearsay. Why people left, they didn't like to be yelled at, they didn't like some people. That's all stuff that I can't process as a jurist in my head. All I know is this is a contract case. So now he paid $8,500, and did you, Mr. Senior, at some point say the $8,500 hasn't been all used up, and I'll give you back some of the money?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And this is also a text message saying he used it for his mortgage and that he agreed to pay me $400 a month to pay back the money.
Coach, fees to catch up on my mortgage, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage, at least $1,500. And between operating costs, there is roughly $2,400 left.
Correct.
Well, that's what you wrote to him.
Yeah, and I was willing to give him the money that the kids had paid up front.
No. There is roughly not the money that the kids paid up front, sir. You say to him in your text, after this was all over, because I assume that this is all over after the team was disbanded, there is roughly $2,400 left. So I'm going to have to work out sort of a payment arrangement, if you don't mind, which means you didn't have the money, but it was left over and you spent it on something else. And it's here, it says, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage. I assume that's your home mortgage.
Correct, after the season was over.
Well, you can't do that. You can't do that, sir. Do you understand? Okay, well, this acknowledges several things. It acknowledges that he used $1,500 to catch up on his mortgage, right? And that, according to you and according to your son, whether or not you took a fee for yourself, paying your home mortgage is a fee. Do you understand that, sir?
I do.
All righty. So
I sure do.
You sure do. So $1,500, did you pay him back the $1,500?
No, because at that point...
No, the answer is no. And you said even after the $1,500 that you used to pay your home mortgage, there was still $2,400 left. That's what you said in here. That's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then you add 24 and 15 is 009 is $3,900.
Yes.
Even my rudimentary math suggests to me that that is a correct number. Well, that's minimally what you owe him, your mortgage payment and the $2,400 left. You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
This acknowledges $39.
Absolutely.
Prove to me any more.
So I went back to Mr. Senior and I said, I didn't necessarily believe that it cost $5,500 to run the team. I said, so therefore, you owe me $5,000. I said, you need to either get a loan and pay me back, or he said, I can't get a loan. I can give you $400 a month.
I'd like to see the exchange.
I said, if you're going to give
I'd like to see the exchange. Just because you said, I think it's $5,000.
And this is where he says, I'd like to pay you back.
This doesn't say anything about $5,000.
And this is where I told him that he misappropriated money that was owed back to me, and that was his response.
Just because you said it, he doesn't acknowledge here in his answer that it's $5,000. Silence cannot be construed as acknowledging $5,000. Even the math doesn't fit in. You played more than half the tournaments. So
can we see how much the tournaments cost then, please?
No, I'm not bothering. That's nonsense. Put something in a contract. You're a contractor. Have a contract. Right now, he owes you $3,900.
And not for the uniforms?
No.
That has his team?
No, he says he doesn't have the uniforms.
Okay.
And I didn't go to 7 years postgraduate school to discuss a basketball uniform, a pair of shorts, and a pair of socks.
Actually,
I don't care.
The uniforms are $1,000.
Well, then somebody's overpaying for a pair of shorts. $3,900. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're finished.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I think it was unfair.
I'm glad she ruled somewhat in my favor.
Because he sponsored a team.
And yes, did I do it for my son? I did. But there was 11 other young men that I did it for.
Fighting amongst each other, poor discipline, and the lack of financial support from the kids.
When you have a group of 18-year-old young men and you don't practice and you don't kind of reel them in and show them that you're the coach and that you run the team, it can get a little hairy.
It is what it is.
I did what I did for these young men. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Me and Jason's are friends. I don't think this is a deterrent.
Always have contracts.
Okay, so I know that when we got the paperwork on this case that you really tried hard to give me a rudimentary lesson in basketball.
I did. Those years managing in high school really paid off today. So
yes,
learned
that's right.
a lot.
You managed.
I did a basketball team, so I know a little bit about AAU. A lot of the kids that played at the school that I went to had previously played on AAU teams, so I kind of get
What's
the dynamic.
AAU?
Oh, Amateur Athletic Union, AAU.
I never would have figured that.
Me neither. So they played on a lot of AAU teams before coming to high school, so I know a little bit about the structure. And when I read it, it's a nonprofit organization that kids play in to get exposure, hopefully to move up to the next level of basketball. But to me, I read it as he was sponsoring the team for $8,500, sort of like how you see in Little League, you know, Johnny's Pizza across the front of the
No,
team's
that
uniforms.
wasn't this.
But this seemed like a different type of setup, and to go through the coach directly, I'm not sure the very specific structure of who gets paid and who doesn't, who sponsors and who doesn't, but definitely paying your mortgage out of an $8,500 that was meant to start a team seems a little outside
Yeah, well,
the
it's
scope.
outside the box, especially since both he and his son say they do this without compensation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have to take money and put it in your pocket. If you take money out of that account and pay your personal mortgage, that's getting paid. Yeah. It was not a difficult case, and the text messages made the whole thing a lot easier. Now I know that there were 5 people on a court
basketball
from each team.
Yeah.
Sorry, absolutely.
Case number 2024, Morgan versus Davis. All parties, please step forward.
Corey Morgan is suing dress designer Jacqueline Davis for party costs and a dress deposit.
Ms. Morgan, this is what this case is about in a nutshell. You were celebrating a birthday. When was your birthday?
March 24th.
And you always make a big deal, according to you, about your birthday. It's a very important day of the year for you and for everybody who knows you.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the way Sarah feels, actually. Me, I sort of like to forget birthdays now. I like it to run right by that day as undercovered as possible. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you celebrate your birthday with a big party.
Right.
And according to you, you get a spectacular dress for this party, invite everybody that you know and care about. How many people were you having for your birthday party?
It was going to be about 12 people.
Where was it going to be held?
It was going to be at the James Harden restaurant.
Who was going to be there?
My best friend from Chicago, my mom, my dad, just an intimate setting of family and friends.
Mom, dad, your best friend from Chicago. Who else?
Just family, cousins, aunt.
Mm-hmm. And you couldn't get the restaurant for that day, so you made it in April on a different day than your birthday.
Yes, I originally booked it in January 18th. The restaurant, it's a big deal, so yeah.
Whatever. It was postponed until what date?
Yes, ma'am, April.
Jacqueline Davis is responsible for party costs and a dress deposit. Jacqueline is countersuing, claiming Corey owes for travel costs.
And you ordered your dress from the defendant. You found her through a mutual friend because she makes wonderful clothes. The defendant also is a tax preparer, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So she's busy. So she makes clothes. She's a tax preparer in season. You made arrangements with her to make your dress, and she was going to make your dress at the cost of $300. According to you, you didn't get your dress in time. It was never fitted at all after your initial measurements were taken. Is that correct?
Yes.
And since you didn't have the dress for your dinner, you had a terrible birthday, you canceled your birthday, and you want her to pay for the dinner.
Yes.
Just
the build up.
That's Miss Morgan. How old are you?
I just made 35, so it was the build up leading to it.
So if you turned 35, I'm a lot older. Sarah's younger, and my other grandchildren, you know, were around that age. I have one that's close to your age. I cannot imagine any of my older grandchildren, or me, for instance, canceling an event because I didn't have just the right dress. I mean, it's not as if a bride is canceling her wedding because she didn't have a wedding dress to wear. Of course, if you want to get married badly enough, you put a sack over your head with a tie and you walk down the aisle. but you don't cancel the wedding. So you want her to pay for the deposit that you made on the dress.
Yeah, it was.
And another $1,000 or more because you didn't have a nice party.
So originally when I booked it, it was for April 1st. When I tried to rebook it because she told me at the last minute that she was not going to be able to do the dress, which was the week of. I had originally set up for her to do the dress so I could have something to wear. I purchased shoes, nails, everything.
I understand everything. She's not going to pay you for the party. You should have worn something else for the party. Believe me, your best friend from Chicago, your mother and your father would not have cared if you wore that dress or any other dress. You should not be out a penny.
I was out of penny.
Well, you were out $150. You gave her $150. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I gave it back to her. I sent her a refund.
Oh, you did send her a refund?
Yes.
Did you? Just a second. Up. When did you send her a refund, Miss Davis?
I sent her a refund on March 29th. She requested a refund on March 28th, and I sent it directly to her.
To her on March 29th?
Yes.
How did you send it, by check or?
She sent me the money via Cash App, and I returned it via Cash App.
Do you have verification of that?
Yes, I do.
And she kept that money?
Yes.
Is that correct, Miss Morgan?
Yes, ma'am.
That's just a yes.
Yes.
Well, what did you think you were taking that money for? You asked for a refund, she gave you a refund.
I gave her $150 and she sent me $105 back, but she sent it the week of my event. So
I don't care the week of your event. Did you send her $105 or?
I did.
Why?
Because I was charged a fee with Cash App, and also there were additional items that were purchased that I told her about that I deducted from that.
You can't deduct anything from that. And you can't even deduct the fee from Cash App because what it cost her was more than $150 then to send it to you, right?
Right.
Right. So why should you send her less?
Because I previously explained to her that I needed to order stones. Those stones were ordered.
Oh, then you're going to have to eat those. You didn't have the dress in time. You didn't have the dress in time.
The dress was done.
No, it wasn't done. Not even according to you was it done. She hadn't had a fitting on it. The problem is you gave her money, and you should have sent her exactly what it is that she sent you because you didn't fulfill your end of the contract. A day before the party is not the time to say it's 95% ready. Okay. She has to give you $145.88, which is exactly what she received. Am I correct that that's what she said?
That is what she said.
$145.88? Okay. She doesn't pay you for your disappointment, for your sorrow, for your party costs, or anything else, just for my own information, because that's my judgment. Did you spend your birthday with your mother and father? That's either yes or no.
No, ma'am.
Who did you spend your birthday with?
My boyfriend.
Oh, was he invited to the other party?
The dinner, yes, but I had to cancel the dinner.
No, I'm just asking.
Yes.
You didn't have to cancel the dinner because you didn't have a dress. That's what I'm trying to get to you. You could have gone to your dinner in that dress. I know, it's silly, and it's a little bit immature also. What about your best friend from Chicago? You told her not to come in because you didn't have a dress?
Well, I told him that I would be canceling the dinner because I purchased shoes, my nails, everything was accustomed to the dress. So when she didn't deliver the dress, everything was already in black and silver. I did not have a chance to go look for anything because it was the week of.
Oh, yes, of course you did. Of course you did, black and silver. You put on black pants, black top, and you put on a silver around your neck. We're done here. Don't be ridiculous, Miss Morgan. You have to grow up a little. You have to give her back her money. Don't disappoint people. I mean, I know it's busy. It's tax time, you said to her. I'm busy. I'm working on things for the Oscars. You can't overstretch yourself. I know that it's very entrepreneurial to try to do too much. But sometimes when you try to do too much, you disappoint somebody.
This court is adjourned.
I'm not happy about it just because I'd already given her a refund.
I'm happy with the decision. It was pretty much principle for me. She was very unprofessional.
And given from the beginning, I worked with her.
And she didn't respect my time, and she canceled on me at the last minute.
And she waited to the last minute and canceled the order. So
she canceled at the last minute because she didn't have the dress ready to begin with.
Everything was really on her, but she put it on me because she was unhappy with how she chose to deal with the whole situation.
We'll be getting another dress with my original person that I was going to go to.
Absolutely not.
But from now on, I definitely will be going with who I know.
Will not work with the plaintiff again.
So I remember seeing through COVID, a lot of wedding dress shops closing down and the stress of brides going for fittings and seeing their dress, picking their dress, and then the shop just closed right out from under them. I wonder if any of them canceled their wedding because they didn't have the right dress.
I think that one of the life's lessons is as you get older, you have to prioritize the importance of things.
True. Spending time with friends, family, out of town, coming for your birthday. I couldn't imagine canceling an event just
because you didn't have the right
outfit.
dress. because you didn't have the right dress. So I think that there's a lot of growing up to do, maybe a little less narcissism, because it would seem to me spending time with your boyfriend, your mother, your father, your best friend from Chicago is more important than having the right dress to fit your nails and your shoes.
I agree.
Maybe I'm just...
Ryan Davis is suing his former landlord, Alex Zadie, for a false arrest and bail money.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2027, Davis versus Zadie.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, a couple of years ago, you were a tenant of the defendants.
Correct, Your Honor.
You rented a room from him?
Correct, Your
in
Honor.
his house. For how long?
For about a year, a little over.
From when to when?
2020, I want to say the beginning of the year till about the end.
Do you remember the dates that he was a tenant?
Yes, they're incorrect what he's saying. It was from May of 2020 to November 2020.
Does that sound right, Mr. Davis?
Something like that, yeah.
May, June, July, August, September, October, and when in November did he leave?
I believe it was by the 10th.
This is what your case is about. Briefly, it is your claim that you and Mr. Zadie had some sort of an argument.
Correct.
Which you'll tell me about. And Mr. Zadie called the police. You were taken from the premises.
Mm-hmm.
You were arrested, spent the night in jail, bailed yourself out. And this happened in 2020.
Correct.
In November of 2020. Your lawsuit is for false arrest and actual damages. You had to post bail and for filing a false police report. The reason that you have delayed for 2 years in bringing this case against him is because you say you had another action pending.
Correct, Your Honor.
What was the nature of the other action that you had pending?
It was a speeding issue with the police.
Well, it's not a speeding issue with the police. Were you stopped for speeding?
It
Were
was a
you
28
arrested for speeding?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
You were arrested for speeding.
Yeah, and they called it a 2800 VC, if my memory serves me correct.
Well, I don't know what that is.
It's, I guess, evading.
Look into it.
In what city and state do you live?
Irvine, California.
Let me understand this. Very few people are arrested for speeding. You remember what you were arrested for, sir? You weren't arrested for speeding.
They called it evading an officer because I didn't pull over right away.
So you were evading an officer. Let's try that, Sarah.
Evading a police officer in a vehicle. It's vehicle code 2800-1.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, what does it say?
Prohibits evading an officer in a vehicle, which means willfully fleeing from a police officer when the officer is pursuing the person in a car or on a bike. The offense is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail.
Okay, so you had a misdemeanor pending, right? Anything else?
No, that was it.
Anything else historically?
Yes, I did have historical priors and cases and stuff from my past. Yes, I did.
Recent past or distant past?
Distant past.
How distant?
Years. I want to say 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't have to go into 2004. So you had this case pending and you felt that it was inappropriate to bring a civil case against him.
Yeah, because I didn't want the cases to intertwine, Your Honor.
They weren't going to intertwine. The case that he brought against you was eventually dismissed.
Correct.
In what month and year was it dismissed?
It was dismissed the same month, about 2 weeks after that.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. So let me understand this. He alleged that you assaulted him or threatened him. You were taken into custody. The DA examined the case and decided not to prosecute it.
Correct.
And that was 2 years ago.
Correct.
Well, I don't know who gave you advice, sir, or whether you did this on your own, but bringing a civil case against someone for something has no impact whatsoever on a pending criminal case, be it a felony or a misdemeanor. You know, if you were driving in a car and someone hit you in the rear in November of 2020, and you waited 2 years to bring that because you had this evading a police officer action and you thought that that was a valid reason, your case would be dismissed for the hit in the rear and whatever injuries you had, because you're supposed to bring these things in a timely fashion.
I understand.
2 years is not a timely fashion. Now that I've suggested that to you, I would like to hear what you say transpired in November 2020, to the best of your recollection.
On November the 9th, 2020, me and my former landlord, Alex Zadie over here, we had an argument about a guest that I had over.
Okay. You had an argument Over the phone or in person?
Over the phone.
Tell me how that phone call was initiated.
He texted me some things, and I called him because I wanted to.
Okay, he texted you. Do you have a copy of that text?
No, I don't have the text.
Do you recall what that text said?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what it said.
I told him that he has to get his girlfriend out of the house because she's been coming in every day and night, staying there.
Okay, so you said, in effect, I rented you this room, not your girlfriend.
Correct.
You got to get her out of the house.
Yes.
Okay.
I had
you remember
already
her name?
addressed to him
just
prior.
just a second. Do you remember her name?
Not.
What was her name?
Twana.
Now, when you rented the room in May, just a second. When you rented the room in May and you moved in, did Tawana move in with you?
She did not move in with me.
So when you rented the room for yourself in May, you rented the room as a single person.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And when did you bring Tawana into the room?
It would be once in a while.
No. What month, sir?
I don't recall the exact month.
What month, sir?
It started happening like back in August, every day. It started one day, then every other day, and then it became constant day and night.
For how long?
For a long, long time, till towards the November when it just went out of proportion.
The argument was about having his girlfriend, according to you, practically living there.
Right.
And you didn't want her there.
No.
Okay, because you rented a room to a single man who, until the girlfriend started to come in, I assume you didn't have trouble with.
Right.
So that's what your text message said to him in November. And as a result of that text message, you called him on the phone. I'm just trying to lay out the story.
Okay.
So you called him on the phone and you said what to him and he said what to you?
I don't recall exactly what I said to him, but I remember he told me to tell her, get the out, get out my house, get the out right now. Your girlfriend is a. He was saying a bunch of derogatory things over the phone to me, and then hung up in my face. I'm working at the time, so when I came back.
Did you call your girlfriend?
No, I didn't call her.
Did you text her?
We speak regularly. We're talking all
No,
the time.
then.
Yeah, she knew about it. She did.
Don't tell me what she knew. I just asked you if you texted her or called her.
Yeah, I did.
You did. And when you texted or called her, was she in the house? Was she in your room?
No, she was gone already at this time. When we were arguing,
just
she was.
Just a second. Is that because he told her to leave?
No, she was leaving already. She had work to go to. She wasn't living there. She had her own place and job in Lakewood, California. And I would tell him that all the time, but he would always insinuate that, oh, no, she's living there. I'm like, no, she's not. She pays $2,000 in rent.
He lives in the house with you.
Right.
Now, before Tawana, had you had any difficulty with him? You
None
moved
at
in
all.
May. May, did you have any difficulty? No.
No.
June, did you have any difficulty?
No.
July, did you have any difficulty?
No.
No. You didn't have difficulty until Tawana came.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So he told you in a very rude way, if I accept that, to get Tawana out of his house.
Correct, Your Honor.
Then you came home from work.
Mm-hmm.
What time did you get home from work?
About 9-ish.
And Tawana was gone.
Yeah, she was gone.
Had she taken her things?
There was nothing for her to take. She didn't bring stuff over there. She wasn't living there.
No, but she came over there and stayed a few days a week and never had
Maybe
any
an
stuff.
overnight bag.
Okay,
That's
but
it.
she took it with her when she
Yeah,
left.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got home about 9 o'clock, and what happened?
I got home at 9 and I said, don't disrespect me and my woman. You know, this is the woman I
Okay.
love.
When you got home, you walked in the front door. Where was he?
He was in the kitchen and he had a female guest there too. That was
He's
there
allowed
for
to have a
weeks.
female guest. It's his house.
Yeah, right. The pot calling the kettle black, basically.
No,
Hypocrisy.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, if you rent a room to a single guy, did you have a lease agreement with him?
Yeah, I did have a lease agreement.
Did you have a written lease?
Yes, I did.
Did your written lease provide that you were going to live there?
Yes, it did.
Just you?
Yes.
Well, you bring in another person, that's in violation of the lease.
That's not in violation of the lease because there was nothing in the lease that said I couldn't have guests. He actually said I could have guests.
Guest is one thing. A guest is somebody that doesn't come with an overnight bag regularly.
No, he said
one
I could
day,
have an overnight
2
bag.
days, 3 days, 4 days. That's more than an occasional guest. That's somebody that comes and goes even when you're not there. Because according to you, you contacted Tawana while you were at work and she was at the house.
That's false.
Well, I thought you contacted her and then you said she left. She took a few things with her, probably just an overnight bag.
No, she was not going there when I wasn't there. That's false.
Are you saying that she was not in your room when you were not home?
When I was not there, no,
Yeah.
she would not be there.
That true?
No, he had made a key to her She would come as she pleased.
Did you make her a
That's
key?
false. That's absolutely false.
Did you make her a key?
No, that's
is my
absolutely
question.
false. No, I
Do
didn't
you
make
still
her a key.
speak to Tawana?
No, I don't. We kind of fell out of touch.
If I were to call Tawana and ask her whether or not you made a key, would she tell me she did or she didn't?
She would say that I didn't.
Didn't.
Yeah.
Phone number.
I have it in my system.
I don't have her number saved here.
I'm not exactly buying the fact that Tawana did not have access to the home even when you weren't there, even if it was just a half hour before you came home from work, sir. You work until 9 o'clock every night?
Your Honor, I had this to say about the whole key situation. I gave her my key when I was locked up in jail from his false police report. I gave her my property, and she had my key then to help me get the stuff out of his home. But I never went and made her a copy of a key
Did
anywhere.
she ever use your key other than when you were incarcerated?
No.
He says she did.
Ryan Davis claims his former landlord, Alex Zadie, owes for bail money after Alex had him falsely arrested.
Okay, so now you're having this discussion. He's in the kitchen. You come home from work at 9 o'clock, and you went into the kitchen to look for him.
Correct.
And when you found him, tell me what happened.
We had just a brief, maybe 2-minute conversation or argument, discourse about what the things that he said. And I said, you know, don't be disrespectful to my woman and me. And I said, you know, you're a bitch. I called him a bitch. I did. But I never threatened him,
No, you
harassed
said
him.
you're what?
That's it.
What does that mean? That's a half a sentence.
Well,
He was calling him a bitch. You are a bitch.
Oh, you were calling him?
yes, because he says these
guy.
things over the phone.
He's a guy. Why don't
Yeah.
you call him a...
Because he says all these things over the phone and he gets real loud and he's a completely different person when he's on the phone than when I'm in
You
his...
think that's gender neutral?
Yeah, at this point.
Well, there you go. That's why I have you here. Okie dokie.
So,
okay, so you were going, don't call me that. You called him a name, and then things got heated, and then what happened?
no, things didn't get heated. After that, he said, oh, that's how you want to do it? And then I said, if you want to get me evicted, you have to go through it the right way and do it legally and give me a 30-day eviction.
No, he must have said to you, I want you out of here because you called me a name.
It
If you
wasn't
said,
about-
if you want me evicted, then he had to have said something about getting you out.
He didn't really say, I don't remember him mentioning anything about me getting out. I just remember the fact that he called the police to get
No,
me
before
out.
he called the police. You were still in the kitchen. Do you ever leave the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
I went to my room.
Okay. Before you went to your room, did you hear him on the phone with the police?
I did.
Before you went
Yes.
to your room?
Yes.
Okay. And?
And I didn't sit there and listen to his phone call. I took a video and I started recording because I didn't want to be made out to look like the guilty party. And I had it pretty much live streaming the whole time, which was an Instagram video.
Can
to
I see it?
prove, No, I don't have the video. The police
Well, then it
deleted
doesn't exist. If you
Yeah.
don't have it, it doesn't
Yeah, I
exist for
understand.
my purposes.
Understood.
But you had it then.
Yeah, I did have it then.
You did. And the police came,
Yes.
and I assume if the police came, you showed them the video.
Yeah, I was showing it to him.
And despite showing them the video, they took you into custody.
Despite showing them the video, they
Just
took
a
me
second.
into custody.
Despite looking at the video,
Yes.
which I haven't seen.
They didn't look at the video. They refused to look at it.
Well, let's go one step further. You see, Mr. Davis, this is why you bring actions right away, so that not only everybody's memory is fresh, but if I wanted to call a police officer
where you're
who
coming.
responded or whatever, that's why you bring an action right away.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So now you're taken into custody and you have a video that is totally, according to you, exculpatory.
I don't know the definition.
Exculpatory means it says that you were not guilty of anything.
Okay.
And you appear in court?
No, I didn't appear in court.
Never?
No, never.
Well, what happened to the case?
The case was thrown out. It was a DA reject because there was insufficient evidence that I did anything to him.
And you never showed the district attorney your video?
I didn't get a chance to because the video was deleted by the police.
The police department deleted your video?
Yeah, they did.
You are a terrible victim of circumstance, Mr. Davis. Did you ever make a complaint that the police department deleted your video that would be exculpatory?
No.
Why not? I would if I had.
Maybe ignorance of the law, I guess.
What?
I said maybe ignorance of the law, I guess. Not knowing. When you know better, you do better.
No, Mr. Davis. Actually, I mean, sometimes you really don't know what the law is, but you were smart enough, you said, to tell me, because you knew I would say, why wait 2 years, that you didn't want this action to conflict with another action. Well, that's a two-process thinker.
I've had something like that happen to me before, where I had a criminal case and a civil case pending, and the dates were kind of intertwining and messing, and they're about to get in the way of my civil case. So I didn't want to make that same mistake with this case, Your Honor.
Okay, so you want to tell me what your version of the events were of November 9th of 2020?
Yes, Your Honor. I had gone to Mexico for a business trip meeting, and I had my friend who was visiting from Mexico staying at my place, and at that same time, I had another roommate who was renting the room next to Ryan Davis's room. His name was Dave. I received a call from Dave on November 9th that it's constant sex going on.
Okay, so you received a call from the other person living in your house who you were renting a room to.
Right.
Okay, and then, don't tell me what he said. Can't tell me, that's all hearsay.
Well, I've heard prior to all the sexual acts taking place.
Listen to me. You personally,
yes,
when you were home?
Yes.
Okay, so you heard what was going on behind his closed doors?
Right, day and night.
Okay.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Okay, well, maybe, maybe jealous. Okay.
Disrespectful.
Shh. Okay, so he was becoming an annoying tenant.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Yes.
Keep going. You sent him a text. He called you. You had heated words. He comes home from work. You're in the kitchen.
Yes.
He comes into the kitchen and
I told him, Ryan, we've gone through this many times before. I've addressed this to you about your girlfriend coming here all the time, day and night, and now she's here every day. What he was doing was sneaking her in late at night, and that's how I will know that she snuck back in. There were times I came home from work, and she was already there when Ryan wasn't even there, so she had the key, obviously.
Okay, now let's go to November 9th.
November 9th, I confronted him. I said that this is just way too much. My other roommate wants to leave. He cannot take it anymore.
And
then he said, well, she isn't here. And my...
Okay, he said she wasn't here. Keep going.
Then he cussed at my friend who was visiting from Mexico. He said, get this bitch out of here.
That's not true.
Don't interrupt.
And,
okay.
I said, you can't talk to her.
Okay, let's go.
Right. Then he went into his room. He came back. He brought a samurai sword with him. And he flashed at me. I'm going to slice you in half like a butter.
Okay.
What?
And I'm like shocked at that time, don't know what's going on with him because he's just changing character. I'm scared of my life. I'm scared of my guests.
Okay. And then what happened? So
And
he
then
came out
I said, you need to get out of here. You need to move.
And then he went back. He didn't do anything with the sword.
No, he didn't. He went back in the room with the sword. He put it there. But then he came back and he pushed me against the wall. As he was pushing me, I tried to block him by putting my two hands up. And when he pushed me, a bruise, I had a cut on my wrist, but there was a bruise.
Okay.
And
now,
I
at what
said, I'm
point?
going to call the police.
Okay, so you called the police when he came back out of his room the second time, this time without the sword. And the police took a report.
Yes.
Do you have that report?
Yes.
I'd
right
like
here,
to see it. Mr. Davis, do you have a copy of the police report or any
have it right
follow-up
here, too,
report?
Your
I'd like to see that, too. Mr. Davis, where did you get the sword from?
My girlfriend at the time,
Which girlfriend?
Twana.
When did she get it for you?
She got it during my birthday, for a birthday gift.
When's your birthday?
October 31st.
And this happened on November 9th.
Correct.
Between October 31st and November 9th, did you have occasion to show Mrs. Zaidi prior to November 9th? So
Never,
between
Your Honor.
31st and the 8th, did you show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
Never, Your Honor.
Her landlord, Alex Zaidi, of causing a false arrest. Alex says Ryan threatened him with a samurai sword.
Okay. October 31st to November 8th, did you ever show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
No, Your Honor.
No.
No.
Okay. So unless he went into your room,
He went into my room.
unless he went into your room prior to November 9th, there was no way he would have seen the sword.
Correct.
Okay. And when did you go away on this business trip, sir?
On the 9th.
That day?
Yes, in the morning.
And on what day did you first see this sword that was in his room?
On the evening of November 9th.
That was the first time, not his birthday, not second day, not third day. Okay. Does his room have a lock on it, by the way?
From inside.
From inside. Mr. Davis, were you on probation at the time of this incident for something in Riverside that involved a fraud?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And that wasn't a fraud dating back to 2004?
It was dating back.
No, it wasn't an incident.
For 2000 and, I believe, 15.
Okay. So when you told me before, and I'm not even going to have Whitney read it back, you said the last time you had this speeding little problem and evading police, I said, well, before that? And you said, yeah, I did before that in 2004.
Correct.
But that was a lie.
Which was like...
Just a second, that was a lie. You had another case involving a fraud in 2015 on which you were on probation, which means that you were either found guilty or took a plea.
Correct.
Okay. And when the police officer, Mr. Davis, took down your statement, you said that while you acknowledged that you had a samurai sword in your room, you said you had never shown it to Mr. Zaidi.
Correct, Your Honor.
You had never showed it at any time. Well, then how would he know that you had a samurai sword, sir, in your room when he called the police?
Because he was going in my room, I believe, when I was not there, going through my stuff.
Okay.
That's the only other way I can know that he was...
I'm not finished reading this, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
That's like the 2015 case. You just remembered. Do you have any other police reports that you'd like me to see, Mr. Davis?
Not a police report, but I have the bail bonds receipt that I paid. And
I'm not interested in your bail bonds receipt.
I have the DA reject.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, they rejected the case right here.
Yeah,
They refused
I'd like
to file
to see
charges. Your Honor, there's a conflicting story where he said he was left on the 9th because he was there 2 weeks with his guest prior to that. So how could he leave on the 9th if his guest was there 2 weeks prior to the 9th?
I asked him when he left for his... Sir, you didn't understand the reason for my question. I wanted to know if he had been gone from October 31st, which was your birthday, to the 8th. That's why I asked him when he left on his business trip.
Correct.
And he said he didn't leave until the date of this incident. You want to say he left before?
He did.
That would
leave
be
before.
interesting.
He
What?
did leave before.
He did.
Yes.
On what date did he leave?
I don't know the exact date, but I
A
know
week before, 5 days before?
it was maybe about a few weeks before.
November 9th?
Yeah, a few weeks.
Then he wouldn't have been able to see your sword because he wouldn't have been coming in and out of your room.
There from the 9th.
Well,
from
this
the
happened on the
31st
9th.
From the 31st to the 9th, he was there.
Well, you just told me he left 2 weeks before.
I'm saying he was gone before that date, and then on the 31st, between the 31st and the 9th, he was there at the place.
Okay, well, that's what he says. He said he was there, and the business was only 1 day. He left on the 9th, and he came home on the 9th. You said, no, he was there for 2 weeks before. Well, if he was there for 2 weeks before and you didn't get the sword until 31st of October, he could not have seen it by going in and out of your room. So you have to sort of get your story straight, sir. So he was there or not there, according to you?
He was there.
He was there?
Correct.
Okay, good.
His guest was also there for about 2 weeks.
Just who cares about his guest? He owns the house.
Okay.
Okay, it was a misdemeanor case and they declined to prosecute it.
Correct.
Your case is dismissed, Mr. Davis, for several reasons. It's dismissed because it was brought in an untimely fashion. It was brought 2 years after the fact for no valid reason.
Your Honor,
it's dismissed for that.
pandemic.
It's dismissed for a second reason, because I find some of your testimony, sir, incredible. And one of the reasons I say that is because you were not forthcoming with a legitimate answer to me with regard to your prior history, which isn't always just positive, but if you had something pending for evading the police, and you had something pending for evading the police while you were on probation for a crime for which you were convicted, either after trial or after hearing, do you understand? You would remember that. Are you still on probation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, your case is dismissed. We're done.
This
You're
court is
making a
adjourned.
big mistake, Your Honor. You have guests over 2 to 3 weeks at a time, but I have a girl over for 3 days, and now it's World War III.
He was only allowed to stay there by himself, not with his girlfriend.
I never went at him with a samurai sword.
It was pretty scary.
He basically just used the system against me because I'm a person of color and I have a record already, so I fit the bill.
He had a criminal record. When I rented the room to him, he was asking for a second chance.
It's easier for them to lock somebody up who's already been to jail.
Nobody was renting him the room, and he was saying he's trying to start a new life.
I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. I wouldn't even need a weapon if I was going to assault him, but I never did.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
You know, there are so many lessons from this case, I think, Sarah. One of them is there's a reason that the law tells you to bring an action in a timely fashion, right?
Many reasons.
Many reasons. One is because it's not like an afterthought, you know, and there are reasons for delays. You were in a hospital, you go into the armed forces, but here there was no really legitimate reason for him not bringing this kind of case in a timely fashion. And the other one that's always a good thing to me, what did you think about his credibility?
Yeah, I think it's hard for a fact finder to believe the totality of your testimony if one of the first questions, just about a simple question of your prior history with law enforcement, if you have any pending charges, I think that's a very simple question. If you aren't fully truthful with the fact finder on that question, it makes it really difficult, and the rest of your testimony is now suspect.
That's true. And it's a good lesson because sometimes you think, well, it's sort of an innocuous question. I don't have to get it. But if I, sitting as a juror in a case, see that somebody is fabricating a fact, and they want you to believe them, you know, they're saying it is that I want you to believe my last law enforcement issue was in 2004.
Oh, yeah. A long time ago, no run-ins.
Right, nothing else, and a speeding.
Yeah.
Ticket, and
it sets the tone in a negative way, and it makes it difficult for the fact finder to find in your favor.
I'm glad. So you agreed with that.
Case number 2029, McCray versus Onwaka. All parties, please step forward.
Brittany McCray is suing her former roommate, Lulu Onawaka, for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages.
Miss McCray, you were looking for a room, and you rented a room in defendant's apartment. It didn't work out. You were unhappy. She was unhappy. You moved out. And now you want return of rent, deposit, moving costs, lost wages, and emotional distress. She also said, didn't work out. We didn't like each other. It just wasn't a good fit. So you were happy she left. That's either a yes or a no. You were happy she left.
No, ma'am.
You weren't happy you wanted her to stay.
No, ma'am.
Then you were happy she left.
No, ma'am. I wasn't happy she left.
Oh, let me see. Let's see. Okay, this is what you say. Brittany, that would be you.
Yes.
This is your answer. Was messy. Played loud music, brought friends in unannounced, damaged the washing machine which flooded our apartment, and without consent offered to adopt someone's dog. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and would not be renewing her lease.
No.
Now, that's what you said.
We'll not be renewing the lease for the apartment.
No. Doesn't matter. I just read you something. I read you your answer. Now, does that sound somebody that was happy with their roommate?
I define happiness for myself. I've lived in co-living where I've had to live with people I do not like.
What?
And make it work is what I'm trying to say. So that wasn't the issue.
Brittany McCray claims her former roommate, Lulu Onawaka, owes for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages. Lulu is countersuing for property damage and storage fees.
Brittany was messy, played loud music, brought friends in unannounced. She damaged the washing machine, flooded the apartment, and without my consent offered to adopt someone's dog. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and wouldn't be renewing the lease. That's what you wrote. Do you want me to show that to you?
No, you are right, and that is what I wrote.
Absolutely. Well, then I don't know why you have a passive-aggressive attitude, because I'm the only one who's passive-aggressive. Then you were happy she left.
No.
Okay, well, you're ridiculous. Then you're a masochist. Somehow you want to live with somebody. You want to live with somebody who's messy, loud, floods your apartment, weren't a good fit, and yet you were happy with that. And I don't have to define happiness.
Yes.
I know that if I lived with somebody who was messy, sometimes loud.
Okay. So each his
He
own.
broke the dishwasher and flooded the apartment because they put regular soap instead of dishwashing soap into the apartment, then it sort of bubbles all over. Now, unless I was either married to that person or they were one of my family, I wouldn't be happy with them. If I had a tenant like that, I would say, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I want out of this.
Okay.
But you were happy.
No, I wasn't. I stand on that.
Okay, then you weren't happy.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what I asked you. You could have saved me all this dramatics. All right, so there we go. You were living in a room.
Yes.
You paid a month's rent.
I did.
Okay, how much rent did you pay?
I paid $1,300 and a $300 deposit.
And you lived there for about a month?
I lived there for 26 6 days.
And things didn't work out. You had a big argument with her back and forth. And as a matter of fact, according to you, you left for a couple of days.
I did.
Yes, because you were unhappy there and felt threatened, felt uncomfortable, whatever
Very
it was.
much so.
So you left for a couple of days. And when you came back, what was your intention when you came back? No, look, not so. Look at me. You left because you were unhappy. You came back. What was your intention when you came back?
I never left because I was unhappy. I left because I was evicted from the property by the defendant.
Just a second. So you didn't leave the apartment after this disagreement?
Yes.
You did?
I did.
Okay. Where did you go?
I actually stayed with my friend.
So you left?
Yes.
On what date?
I left on June 1st.
You left the residence and stayed with your friend?
Yes.
And you stayed with your friend after the argument?
Yes.
Why?
I'm able to provide some backstory on
I don't need any backstories. I'm just trying to get to a mindset of why the two of you think that you have a lawsuit against each other. Why do you bother wasting your own time, wasting precious court time when you weren't happy in the apartment, you paid for a month's rent. Certainly, you're entitled to your security back if you caused no damage to the apartment. You lived there practically a month, and you're not entitled to any more money because she didn't give you 30 days' notice because you were just as happy that
She had abandoned properties.
What?
She had abandoned properties.
Okay.
She damaged the door, and I lost my deposit as well because of that.
Just a second. Damaged what door?
So,
No, just not so. Okay. Damaged what door? That's a door. An outer door, a door to her room?
Yes.
The door to her room?
Yes, she did that.
You have a photograph of the damage.
Yes,
I'd like to see it.
Please bear with me. I'm going to find it quickly.
The damage she's referring to was actually me attempting to change the locks on the door. I left after I had been informed by the
Just
defendant.
a second. So you acknowledged the door was damaged while you were trying to change the lock on the door?
I was trying to change the lock because during my time away, all of my belongings were still in the property, correct?
Listen to me. Did you damage the door?
No. The doorknob was removed, but the door is not damaged.
The lock was removed?
The lock was removed.
All right, I'd
so
like
that
to see.
the defendant would no longer have access to my room, to which she actually did enter my room while I was away.
Okay.
I left because the defendant actually informed me that I would need to get out by that date. After requesting a full month of rent, despite me not having even lived in the property for the original month of rent that I had paid for.
I don't care. Unless you can show me the damaged door and how much it was to repair it, and I want to see how much it was to repair it.
I don't have how much it was, but here is the lease agreement, and we paid $2,900 to be here for the security deposit.
Oh, she just took this out. That's nonsense. That's nothing.
I wasn't still able to get my deposit
Nothing.
back.
The agreement
I got
that I...
$1,700 back.
Understand this.
Okay.
This is not damage to the door. She took out a cylinder. All you have to do is put it back. Unless you have a receipt for somebody putting it back, you get
No, but
nothing.
that's what I'm saying. We didn't put
you
it
get
back.
nothing. You get nothing.
It's a maintenance request at the property.
I didn't ask you a question. You're entitled to your $300 security back.
That wasn't the security. That was for key and cleaning, and she was aware of it.
$300 security deposit. By the way, are you allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment? That's a yes or a no?
No.
Just a, hey.
No,
hey,
no,
don't look down. Don't look down. So the answer is you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment. She gets her deposit back. We're done. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
I didn't concede to her requesting me to clean out a garbage at the apartment, and at that point, she lost her entire senses and asked me to move out of the apartment. Always pick your roommates more carefully.
Okay, so I don't have anywhere to go really on this case except to suggest that people who feel good, look like they have a job, look as if life is otherwise okay for them, and they move into this rental situation, which is very difficult. I never could understand it, to move in with a stranger in an apartment and just rent a room when you don't even know whether you're compatible, whether you have similar interests, similar time schedules. I always thought that was fraught with danger, and it keeps me in business here. But here you have two women that were both unhappy. You had an unhappy tenant, an unhappy landlord. You had a lease, but both of them were unhappy. It really didn't cost either of them anything. Plaintiff says she didn't get 30 days notice, so she should be compensated for $5,000 and her moving costs and
storage fees, some other things. It seemed like a wash to me when I read the papers. And to have your happiness after the end of constant struggle or battle with each other seemed like a win to me, but apparently it wasn't enough for them.
Apparently not. Well, unfortunate. But she's entitled to a security deposit back. She lived there for almost a month. She paid him.
Clun for a semi-automatic rifle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2055, Lukoski versus Clun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lukoski, am I correct that you own or manage a shooting range?
Yes, it's a target range. It's on my own property that I own in northern Minnesota.
And it's licensed to do commercial target shooting?
Not necessarily. What I do is...
What is not necessarily? What does that mean?
Well, for 19 years, I have been a firearms instructor for the permits to carry for the sheriff's department in my county. Okay. So I don't believe that the training is good enough that the people are getting to be able to carry handguns on the street. So I give them a free additional training session at my range.
You also sell guns?
I do not sell guns, no.
How do you make money, is my question.
So I give money by charging people for the class.
Well, that's what I'm talking. You charge people
yes.
to use, and you don't need a license to run that sort of operation in your county.
No, you have to be a registered NRA instructor, which is also,
Are you?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
For how long?
Oh, I've been doing this for 19 years.
The case is really not very complicated, but let me see if I can break it down to its most basic elements. There was a gentleman who regularly came to your range.
Yes.
And his first name was?
Jim.
How long had he been coming to your range?
A couple of years at least.
And then, according to what you indicate in your complaint, and Mr. Clun doesn't deny it, he got sick. And according to you, the nature of his illness, you felt prevented him from using a heavier weapon.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you loaned to him, because of his illness, a rifle.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of rifle did you
It
loan?
was a sporting rifle. It was very lightweight.
What kind?
It was called a PS-90. That was the model.
PS?
PS as in Sam, 90.
Would you take a look at that, Sarah, please?
I have a picture of it, Your Honor, if you'd like to see one.
I would.
It's very unusual. Thank you.
Okay.
May I see it? Thank you.
And on approximately what month and year did you loan Jim this gun?
Well...
Well is not an answer, so let's think carefully because we know we're coming
probably a month approximately before he died, which was
I don't know
September.
when that was.
September 8th, I believe he passed away in 2021.
How did you find out that he passed away?
I believe Mary here, who's here because of the fact that she caregave for him while he was going through cancer treatments. She was his reason for staying alive. And she also did witness some things that happened in this case.
Okay, I'll get to you in a second. So he passed away on November 8th.
He died on September 9th.
9th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay.
Prior to his passing away, Jim and Mr. Clun had some business deal. And Mr. Clun believed that Jim owed him money. So far, right?
Correct.
And after Jim died, Mr. Clun went to Jim's home and took several things from the home to satisfy that debt.
No, I did not do that, Your Honor. I never came back to the house. I never took anything. Everything I received prior to his death.
Okay. Tell me when you received the gun that belonged to Mr. Lukoski.
Looks like 5/20/21.
Can I see what you have that indicates that you received the gun in May? Because you gave it to him about a month before he died?
Approximately a month.
Well,
could have been a little longer.
It had to be longer.
Okay.
I picked it up the 5th month.
In May?
Yes.
Okay, and you couldn't have given it to him in August.
Yeah, you're right.
It had to be before then.
Okay.
And tell me the circumstances, because that's what this case is about. Mr. Lukoski claims that it was his gun. It was a loan. You had no right because you took it. You got it, evidently, you want to tell me, from Jim, and then subsequently sold it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding your getting possession of this gun in May of 2021.
Jim was in need of money, so I loaned him money, and in trade for the money as collateral, he said he would...
Okay. And I'm going to let you tell me this because Jim's not here, so I'm going to have to get more specifics from people who were his caregivers to buttress what you're saying to me. He needed some money. How did you know him?
Best friends from high school.
And you remained friends?
Yes.
How did you find out that Jim needed money?
Jim called me up, and he was getting scammed, but he wanted the money, and he told me
he was getting scammed by whom?
I don't know who it was, but anyway, I would give him $2,500. He would go to the post office and mail it somewhere. But every time he did that, I would receive collateral of motorcycles or guns.
Just a second. I want you to run this by me. Jim called you and said, I'm being scammed?
No. I think he's being scammed.
I don't care what you think.
Okay.
What you think is unimportant to me. I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding the money that you gave to him. He called you and said...
He needed to borrow money. I borrowed him the money.
No. I need to borrow money. Had you ever loaned him money before?
Yes.
Often?
No. In the last year of his life, I did probably a half a dozen times.
Just in the last year. So when he called you and said, I need to borrow some money, the reaction, even from a best friend, would be, of course, if you need money, tell me why. Right? That's a natural question. And so that's what you asked him. Tell me why.
And I asked him that question, and he said he was going to be receiving $1 million or $2 million in the next few months.
Okay.
Lukoski claims business owner Gene Klun owes for a semi-automatic rifle.
So did you ask him how?
I asked him how, and he said he had it all planned with this guy he was sending the money to.
That's all he told you about it? Or did he go into specifics? He did. It had to sound interesting to you, Mr. Klun, because if my best friend called me and said, I need to borrow some money, and I said, tell me why. And she said, because I'm going to come into $1 million shortly, but I need to borrow money to get it to this guy before I get the $1 million. I would say, explain that to me.
And I did. And he said... He said that he would be receiving money in the next month or 2 months.
Mr. Klun, then you would say, how does that, and can I get in on it? You know, if I'm sending you $2,500, which is what you said you gave him, I would say, oh, gee, $2,500, that's a reasonable investment, and I'm going to get a return on my money of $1 million shortly. I would say, is there any piece of that for me?
I didn't question him. He just wanted the money, and he said in return for the money, he would give me the motorcycles and guns as collateral.
Okay. May I please see the written agreement that you had?
Verbal.
So other than you and Jim, nobody knew about this agreement?
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, when was the first time you gave him money?
Looks like May.
May?
Of 2021.
Okay. And when was the last time you gave him money?
7/6/21.
Between May of 2021 and the beginning of July, how many times did you give him money?
4 times.
And you have that documented with bank records, et cetera?
Right here, Your Honor.
Okay, great. And tell me how much in total you gave him.
$7,500.
Kevin, would you bring me the documents that Mr. Klun is looking at, please? So in total, you gave him $7,500. And in return, according to you, you took possession of how many motorcycles?
3 motorcycles.
And they belonged to Jim?
And he signed over the titles and everything to me.
Well, they were collateral.
Right. But he signed over everything and gave me the titles for everything.
I see the titles to the motorcycles.
They're sold, ma'am.
Interesting.
As well as the rifles that I got also.
I'm just asking you, do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles? There were 3? Did you say 3?
Yeah.
Do you have the sales receipts from the 3 motorcycles that you say you sold?
No, but I was paid $5,000 in cash for the 3
How am I supposed to know that, sir?
Okay,
You sold
well,
3
anyway,
motorcycles.
Okay.
How am I supposed to know? I mean, all of this is coming out of nowhere, actually, with no proof whatsoever, unless you're prepared to give me some flesh on this bone of a case. Could you stand up? Your first name is Mary?
Yes, it is.
What's your last name?
Wellman.
Were you Jim's caregiver?
Yes, I lived in the upstairs of his house.
Were you a tenant?
We were friends since the late 90s when I first moved to the area.
So regular caregiver of his, or were you just as needed?
He developed cancer in the late 90s, and I lived with him in the first 2 years because of the 50-50 survival rate and the constant trips to the Mayo Clinic from where we lived were an entire day trip. And then after about 3 years, when he was kind of back on his feet again, I moved out, but we remained friends and we rode motorcycles together and we did lots together. And
So you lived in the house?
Yeah, and I moved back in okay.
Okay. Were you living in the house when he bought these 3 motorcycles?
2 of them I was. A dual sport that he had changed or upgraded to ride a little bit more rough terrain, possibly into Canada.
Okay, just to...
Okay. Yeah.
That much flesh on the bones I don't need.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Did he buy them new or used?
He had bought them used.
In approximately what year?
Well, would have been during the cancer, and so it approximately 2000 to 2003.
Do you know anything else about his dealings with Mr. Klum?
I do know the motorcycles were in the garage when Jim died.
No, they weren't.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't speak. How do you know that?
Well, I had on and off go out there for things, but then Jim's nephew had come and removed one of the bikes right after Jim had passed away.
So the nephew came and removed one?
Mm-hmm.
But this was after he passed?
Yes.
What's the nephew's first name?
Anthony.
Do you know Anthony, Mr. Klun?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you get the motorcycle from Anthony?
Nope, I got the motorcycles from Jim, the motorcycles that were left after Jim passed away.
Okay. Now you can sit down.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Klum. Do you have any statements, text messages, or anything else indicating that Jim indicated to you that he could give you as collateral this rifle, other than the fact that he had it in his possession?
I got more than one rifle. I have checks that were written out to Jim, and that's what we did.
But that doesn't answer my question, Mr. Klun. I don't care how many rifles you had. He only had one that he gave to Jim because it was lighter and easier to shoot. And as his illness progressed, if I'm getting this right, it was hard for him to pick up his own rifle. Now, he may have had more, probably did have more, because you took more than one, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many rifles did you take?
I took 3 rifles, 5 pistols. I had to bring 3 of the rifles back.
Where?
To Jim to get replacements. The guns that were from Mr. Lukoski.
Only one?
3 of them.
No, he said he only gave him one.
Oh, no, but there was 3 of them.
So you brought Mr. Lukoski's gun back to Jim while he was alive?
No, I sold the gun.
Keep going. You sold...
This specific...
Just tell the truth. You don't have to have a good memory.
Is accusing business owner Gene Klun of selling his semi-automatic rifle without permission.
Keep going. So you sold it. You didn't take it back to him to get a replacement.
No,
to Jim.
You misunderstood. The gun that Mr. Lukoski had, I kept that one.
The one that belongs to Mr. Lukoski, you sold it.
Correct, because
So just a second. Sold it to whom?
The gun dealer in Virginia, Minnesota.
Great. And for that, you have a receipt.
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I left it at home.
Oh.
Your Honor,
Mr. Klun.
Oh,
Mr.
he
Klun,
has it right there.
let Mr. Klun, he doesn't have to prove anything to me. I believe that you resorted to self-help to claim a debt. If it's true, and you did in fact give him money, I actually don't believe that a guy like you would give him all this money without trying to find out what the scam was, or at least tell him, Jim, it sounds to me like you're being scammed. Somebody in Transylvania sent you an email that said a long-distant relative of yours died and left you $1 million. I need $2,500 in order to clear the paperwork to send you $1 million. And I will keep a little piece for myself for finding you. You know how many of those everybody gets? I don't know why people still believe that, but you evidently believed that story 4 times. And not once did you say your friend who was dying of cancer, Jim, this is ridiculous. What you're doing is just throwing good money after bad. I don't understand why you didn't say that to him, or if you did, you would not have said to him, unless you had something to gain, which clearly you did. You sold the motorcycles. You don't have any proof of what you sold them for. You expect me to take your word for the fact that you sold them for $5,000 in cash without proof. He owed you, if I were to believe you and these checks, $7,500. You sold the motorcycles, you sold guns, but unfortunately, one of the things that you sold belonged to the plaintiff. And when somebody dies, there is an estate. There's a judge who decides what property there is. You know, if heaven forbid something happened to me and my dentist thought that I owed him $25,000, he couldn't come into my house and say, gee, I like this Ming vase. This Ming vase is just going to cover my dental bill. You can't do that. And that's what you did. You sold property. You may have had a claim against his estate if he, in fact, owed you money, and if the estate went to probate. I don't know. Did he own a house?
Yes.
Yes. Did he have children?
No, he left the house to me.
Okay. So he had an estate. Clearly, there's money in the estate because he left a house that has some value to someone else. So you cannot, Mr. Klum, resort to self-help. And Mr. Lukoski is going to show me the value of the gun that his...
Yes. May I expound just a bit on this gun?
I don't care about
the manufacturer.
I don't care about the gun. I don't care if it's a crown in my mouth. What's the value of the gun?
The value of the gun at the time that this man took possession of it.
Just give me an answer.
It was $3,000. It's gained in value.
Okay, well, who cares if it's gained in value, sir? I'd like you to show me where the gun is valued at $3,000. Could you look it up?
I did. I have it. It's listed from the same photo. I found the website listed for $2,500.
Okay. My law clerk found an ad online. Now you're going to show me what you want to show me, that the value is $3,000. Let me see it, please.
May I say something else about this gun?
Not until I look at this. I don't know what this is. Immediate checkout, credit card. What is this?
Look at the very top, please.
I see what this is. I want to see what you paid for. This is something that's on sale, starting bid.
It's just a typical price of what they sell for on Gunbroker.
Okay. $2,500?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I'm pleased at the outcome because the information needed to be exposed that there was something terribly wrong.
Somebody waits for 10 months and finds out his gun is missing.
Too many different people, and no one had the same answer from him at any time.
Something's wrong.
I don't think he had a choice. There was only way he was going to win his case because everything's based on mistruths.
I could not get my mind around the defendant. To have a friend since high school that you're best friends with, you remained good friends with. If one of my best friends came to me and told me, hi, I just need to borrow $2,500, I'm going to be a millionaire 2 months from now, I'd say, are you crazy? There's so many of these scams going around. I know I've seen your phone sometimes gets tripped up with the scammers and in the middle of the night ringing off the hook. It's unfortunate that people fall for these scams and really send their hard-earned money, sometimes that they don't have, to these scam artists, and they're never going to see it again. And I think that people have to be really vigilant. I know there's been warnings and things like that I've seen more publicized recently about scams and just how detailed and intricate they can seem, but it's really just...
I get them all the time, as you said.
Yeah.
I have to go like this and then delete them.
Delete.
Anton, please answer immediately. Your $3,000 refund is sitting here waiting for you.
Non-existent.
No, sometimes they leave out Anton. Your $3,000 refund is here.
Yeah, gotta be smart.
And, you know, Sarah, a couple of years ago, I don't know whether you remember, but I just thought about it. People were calling me and saying to me, Judy, I didn't know that you went into the cosmetics business.
Oh, yes, I do remember.
And the people who crafted the advertisement, you know, with all kinds of real logos on the top
reviews
of it. And reviews, and I tried this stuff. And I remember being at the gym working out, and a woman came over to me and said, you know, I bought your cosmetics, and they were really terrible. And they keep sending them to me every month.
And probably charging her credit card.
Charging her credit card. And I tried every vehicle in the government to try to get somebody to...
shut it down.
Track it down. And the answer was, they're so smart that they use international, you don't know where they could be. They could be in Peru, they could be in Chile, they could be in Brazil, they can be in Canada. And I know that there are many other celebrities who were caught with the same scam net. But this guy said, my friend Jim...
was probably getting scammed. Then why would you provide him the money to get scammed?
Absolutely right.
Fatoumata Diallo has accused salon owner Kanaya Taylor of stealing 5 wigs. Kanaya says Fatoumata was trying to scam her.
So the car was repossessed. When? Don't look at her. Give me a month, give me a year. Was it recent, in the last 3 months, 4 months?
I can't give you a month.
So it was repossessed because of non-payment of whatever the note was, because that's the only basis to repossess a car. Okay. Now, you say you're not living in that same apartment anymore. You were living in this 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yeah.
Yes is an answer. And you're no longer living in that apartment.
No.
And what happened to that apartment?
I moved. She moved with me.
Okay. You moved when?
November.
November of 2021.
Yes.
Just about the time of all these disputes over wigs. Did your roommate remain in the apartment?
Yes.
Did you have a lease in that apartment?
Yes.
Was your lease over, or did you move out during the lease?
It was over, and I renewed it for my roommate.
Now, the lease was in your name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes is an
ma'am.
answer, and you renewed the lease even though you moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living now?
In Conyers.
What kind of place?
House. And I pay all the bills.
And what does your girlfriend do?
She works.
What does she do?
She does lashes. She does hair. She does nails. She's an entrepreneur.
Does she have a website?
Yes.
Yes. What's the name of her website? You think?
Yeah, I think. I don't be on her. I don't shop with her.
Got it?
Looking.
Did you have a conversation with Miss Taylor about these 5 wigs? Did you have a conversation with her?
Yes.
Do you have a cell phone?
Me? No.
Did you ever have a cell phone?
Yes.
What happened to your cell phone?
I broke it, so I went on another one.
And you didn't get another one?
It have to get sent to the house. I just broke it. Like, I just broke it.
You just broke it?
Yeah.
So
last
you
week.
have a cell phone. Tell me how you broke the cell phone.
I got real angry and I threw it.
You got angry with somebody.
Yes.
And tell me how your girlfriend lost her cell phone.
Oh, she gave it to me.
And when did she lose her cell phone?
She gave me that phone. I bought her another phone. She gave me that
So she
phone
gave you,
around.
just a second. So she gave you the phone that she had been using,
Yes.
which had Joyce information on it. That was the phone she gave you.
I guess so. I don't know Joyce. I don't know who Joyce is.
Sit down. Ms. Taylor, you want to be in business, you have to pay for what you ordered. It's
Yeah,
absolutely,
okay.
I'm not speaking to you, it's absolutely outrageous that she sent you these wigs, they were delivered to your house, and she not only doesn't have the wig, she doesn't have not only her profit, she doesn't have any money. And you've got a lot of clients that you can't identify, and phones that got lost, and information that you don't have. And information that you don't have, that you don't have. Clients that are no longer clients, that blocked you. I mean, people who block you after you work for them for a year, that means that you're either doing a lousy job.
No, because the way she came at me, I actually chumped them off because I feel like you're messing up my business. So I chumped them off, and I guess she didn't want to reply, and she just blocked me.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff.
Your Honor, I have other text messages. I was out of business for
I have to tell you something. I can't discern whether you lost business or not because of this. I cannot discern that.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you back the money that you lost as a result of shipping her 5 wigs and not getting compensated for it.
And I also have court fees, and I ordered a PI as well.
But
That just a second.
More people
that
than
I will
just me
hear.
for wigs.
What
You
were
the
your court
scammer.
fees?
I'm not the only person you suing. If I pulled up
Nobody
and bought a wig, why wouldn't I
nobody
do that?
is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
'Cause it's
Court fees.
like...
And I also have my incident report that day.
Just a second. Would you please just give me the court fees? You said you had court fees and you hired an investigator.
Yes, I did.
And I'd like to see that invoice, because that's you're entitled to.
I have the text messages with my PI.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is that you're handing me. I asked you what the court fees were.
I have my PI phone number.
You have nothing.
I didn't print out my court fees, but I do have my more.
Do you have an invoice from the investigator that you say that you hired?
Yes.
And the work that they did?
Yes, I have all the messages.
I don't want messages. I need an invoice, a payment.
I did a payment, $400, and we have the text message trying to find her everything.
Can I see it, please? It was $250 for skip tracing and $150 for service.
My sales went down.
Just a second. Did this person serve her?
Yes, they did.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff. That's it. We're
This
done.
court is adjourned.
I never did it. You know, I just got it sent to my house.
We went through everything. We had to go through birthdays.
It's like saying, oh, I know a friend that they know how to cut hair.
Text messages, everything.
And then you don't like your haircut. What, you want me to pay for your haircut? Like, girl.
We literally hawked her down for the information.
She honestly messed up my clientele.
It would be easy to be forthcoming with me and say, these are the clients who I sold it to. I gave her the information. They were supposed to pay her, whatever, but she didn't.
A lot of running around.
A lot of
circle
running
story.
around, and there's no question that the plaintiff sold her those wigs. She made a markup. She made a 25% markup. That's okay. And I'm certain that she put in the wigs and made her own markup. You know, that's commerce. But this ability to reverse charges on a credit card and to have somebody, and it's usually just a person, we're not talking about a committee or a tribunal that determine whether or not the charge was legitimate, just to reverse it. And then where are you? You're left without your product. Very frustrating.
It's a double-edged sword. It can be very useful. I've had to do that on a few different occasions. And the process is very hidden and sort of behind the curtain. And I fear for people like the plaintiff who run their own business, hardworking people who make the best money on the internet because there's no overhead fee of running a store. But these are some of the risks and things that you have to ensure before you get into business.
Well, too bad. Too bad people don't do the right thing. If they did the right thing, we'd be out of business.
Xin chào mọi người. Ở video trước mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người hoàn thành xong được hết các bộ phận của con gấu. Và ở video lần này mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người dàn các bộ phận ý lại vào thân con gấu. Thì mình sẽ giấu những sợi len thừa đi. Mình sẽ khâu phần tay này vào trong phần thân. Sau khi khâu xong phần tay, mọi người sẽ khâu đến phần chân.